Good afternoon, good morning, and good day. Good evening, or good morning to those of you on the West Coast. and this is not a test. This is the real show. We are not off to a great start with this new software, but what happened this time was, as usual, one of the platforms messed us up. This time it was Facebook and Twitch. So if you guys are on Facebook, let me know. If you're not on Facebook, I don't know what to say. On YouTube, when we get to 5 viewers, YouTube has got a little present for you guys. So what I'll do is I'll let you know when that happens, and I'll push the button. Real quick, I'm adjusting the title because I don't like that title. It shouldn't say test. It should say ready to go. And then we've got a lot to discuss today. We're going to start off with plugs because why not start off with plugs? All right. There we go. We get out of this view. And is the collab cam still started? Yes, it is. So if somebody joins us, we'll change the views. Um, sorry, it's a new setup, and I've got you guys right here in the camera. I've got my story window down here. With no stories in it, of course, because that's how the system does me. Chat's going to look a little different this time around. I've still got to work on how to highlight the chats. So let's start with copying this link and putting it in this window. And then we're going to change the views and share that window. Okay, let's see. That's going to be, do this again. So click here, get a presentation view. We'll tell it where the window is. Hey, baby, how are you? Are you playing us some music, huh? That will be interesting. That sounds a little like Twinkle Twinkle, just a little. All right, so we got our window, and it's mostly all trimmed up. And that's not very nice, baby. Let's just get the thing on air, and then we will fix it, because right now it's gonna blow it off the bottom of the page. So let's see. You dropped it? Why are you covered in chocolate? She's covered in chocolate. She thinks it's hilarious. Okay, so now we'll go back into the regular view. All right, so I see that you guys can see me. Is the chat working? I guess I can test that myself. Test. All right, Dan says hello. There we go. All right, so I when I did the test, I didn't consider black on black web pages. So let's do that, and you guys should be able to see the tests. Yep, there we go. Although that's eye searing, and it also messes with the camera. So let's turn it back to black. Yeah, you can see the colors change. All right, let's shorten this window a little bit. I think that'll do what we want. Ends it in the house. Okay, yeah, so shortening the window did what I wanted. Maybe if I make it narrower too. There we go. All right, so now I'll grab you guys' chat and I'll move it over some. All right, I have to tweak this some more, but this is a good start. So, like I was saying, we're going to talk about plugs, and good news. We were told by the SAE that they would be certifying what I call JNAX because their name is stupid. SAE J3400, which is a better name than what they could have given us. They could have given us some random number instead of a nice even number. But Nax is four characters. Their numbers are 4 characters. JNAX would be way better for public relations than 3400. But anyway, it's done. So what does that mean according to Electric? Let's take a look and see what Electric says it means. And then I will tell you what I think it means. So they have followed through on their plans to finish the NAC certification by the end of the year. There were a lot of skeptical people on this because These types of organizations don't move very quickly. That's the whole reason that NACS exists in the first place, because J1772 wasn't ready in time for the Roadster to go on sale, and CCS wasn't ready in time for the. Yeah, yes, it is water. That one's just empty. Yeah, yes. So CCS wasn't ready in time for the Model S to launch, and yes, there was Chatamo, and that if you look at how fast the Model S can charge, the 50 kilowatts was not enough. And if you look at how long it takes to travel on the Chatamo adapter or in Bolt or any of those other 50 kilowatt cars, you'll see that that also wasn't sufficient. Also, at the time that the Model S launched, CCS launched at 50 kilowatts, and the supercharger network launched at 90 kilowatts, which is now up to 350 with the V4 system, which is really 250 with what you can find out there. Baby, play with mommy. Yeah. um, so up to 350 if you can get a V4 cabinet and V4 dispenser, or 250 otherwise, and then 350 at a handful of working CCS stations. So progress does happen, but it wasn't ready in time for the Model S to launch. Baby, come here. Let me flip that over so you're driving on the wheels instead of the thing. Come here. Let me see. There you go. Drag that around. All right. Yes. It's a lot less noisy on wheels. My brother's telling me, but I would put him on air because this thing is connected to Bluetooth. All right, let's see. So as I was, she flipped back on. Maximum noise. And I don't know where her mom is, so I don't want to close the door. Uh, that combined with all these lights heat up the room real quick. Yes, you have your xylophone. Okay. So as I was saying, this is not going well today. The yes. How can I help you? Do you want to get on air? Is that what's going to get down? Do you want to get on the camera? No. Okay. The J3400, the J Next versus Tesla Next, it will let's just look at the thing. I'm a little distracted right now. You get yeah, so they're rehashing that Tesla is the majority deployed number of chargers and stations, not stations, but and cars. They, depending on whose numbers you're looking at, they're not the most number of stations, because the station can be defined as a one or two plug spot at a convenience store or at a bank, or uh, every single one of them, because the CCS group wants to be relevant. So every single one of them counts. And when you look at a station for Tesla, it's a minimum of four for a public station, a minimum of two for a like at a service center. And today they don't even deploy them that small, because the smallest single V3 station you'll find will be a four, and you'll find weird ones where they'll deploy like a six, they'll do a four and a half for some reason, but that's not common. So you're gonna have anywhere from four to 100 or more at each station, depending on where in the world we're talking about. So saying that the stations are less doesn't really sell the whole picture unless you uh, need each individual point, which each one helps, but not really comparing apples to apples with that. All right, so they, yeah, put it in your shopping cart. So then they pointed out when Tesla first unveiled this version of sharing their plug, and they pointed out that few people took it seriously. Just like Moto there doesn't take this seriously. So then SAE and Tesla worked together to get SAE to control a version of this standard. And let's see. So what we're trying to do now is I can calm the nerves from all this random background noise. We are going to discuss what. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. She's back. This is fun. There's only one person watching now. You scared everybody away. That's my distraction. Come here. Come here. Come here. All right. Talking about Max, okay? Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, the window's closed. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Really? What? What? How about the audio on this? No, you don't need to touch any of the buttons. Yeah. You don't need to touch any of the buttons. Done. There. Go play with mommy. Um, yes. So, talking about the advantages of what the JNAX offers over NAX and J1772. So with the J3400, you get the same 277 volt maximum on AC charging, which is a step up from what you had to do with J1772, where it maxed out at 240 volts. So there you had to have all sorts of transformers and other items if you were working with commercial power. At home, it was no problem because that's what we had was a split phase 240. Boom, good to go. Uh, they also went ahead and they did something new with this that was not there from Tesla's implementation of NACS. They brought in detachable cables, and so that's going to work much like we saw in, or much like we see in Europe, where there's I don't think it's exactly a Type 2, but the same port that they use on the lamppost. I'll get you the number from this article in a second. And that will allow you to bring your own cable, and it will allow station owners to not have to spend as much on maintenance or on the initial deployment even. And another benefit to that is it will allow uh, high power AC charging. So for vehicles that want to charge on three phase, you can use the Type 2 connector from Europe on a truck, like a regular delivery van, like a Class 6 truck. They can plug into. We could do lampposts, but they were implying more like just appropriately sized parking spaces. And what that will do is instead of getting a J1772 end or a NAX end, they will get a Type 2 end, just like you have in Europe, and they can charge on three phase because NAX and J1772 don't support they don't support three phase charging because that's not something we needed in North America. Where's your mom? Oh, don't push that. No, it's glass. You're gonna break it. Yeah. What? Just having fun. I'm frustrated by the fact that the software made me start late and that she keeps interrupting my stories. We will work through this. I guess, I'm guessing it's almost nap time for the sudden burst of energy. So anyway, we were talking about the voltages on the AC charging for that was your limit 208 to 240 on J1772. There's an argument about whether the fixed cable was a requirement or not. I Some people are saying vehemently, fixed cable was not a requirement of J1772. However, I've never seen a J1772 station with, and see, that's another reason that JNAX would be better than freaking J3400. That's a mouthful every time I want to talk about the old plug. I never saw a station with a detachable cable. I've seen them with removable cables, as in, you could do maintenance, shut down the power and get out your screwdriver and disconnect it, put in a new one, reconnect it, close it up, turn on the power. That's not the same thing as a detachable cable. They've got a picture in this article. So let's see. So 277 will allow them to do more installations because they don't need to put in any of these transformers or anything. Just put it in, connect it to one leg of three-phase power or any number of other commercial AC power installations up to 277, and then the car can just charge. And that's part of the other reason why I think that we're not going to see too many charging inlet retrofits on most vehicles unless their onboard chargers could already deal with this, which is not what most people want to hear. The other thing that they have to be able to deal with is currently on the CCS cars, the DC ports and the plugs and the DC lugs and the AC lugs are separate, so the chargers don't have to deal with, oh, what happens if somebody applies uh, 500 volts DC to the AC pins? What does it do? On the Tesla car, they're the same pins, so it'll say, "Oh, this is 500 volts DC. Let me switch on over to direct charge the battery," versus trying to run all that through the AC charger. There are a couple of other cars that may have the capability to deal with this, but that's part of what else was taking so much time to get everybody transitioned over to the native NACS plugs. That and waiting on this standard to come out, so that way our German friends could not have to worry about, oh, this is from another company. What are we going to do with it? Well, now they can just specify they want to use the J3400 instead of using the NACS published sheet from Tesla. Or if they don't want to pay SAE, they can use the sheet published from Tesla. A little bit harder to test against that one, but you can work it. All right, so then we've talked about making it easier for installing and running stations, saving money. So then they get into the benefits of people who don't have people who don't have off-street parking. So they're talking about, like I said, the light post charging, or you could have a charging pedestal, or you just plug it in your connector there, and then however you get the power to start flowing from that. Take a look at the picture here. So the NAC standard instead uses a standard receptacle, which is the same as the one used in EU and China, uh, which can be plugged into a $100 to $200 carry-along cable that EV drivers can keep inside their car. I should be looking up here, but I don't know why I'm not. It's just a little bigger on the lower screen. I guess I can zoom in. Let me try that real quick. Let's do Control Plus. No. All right, we'll go to View and zoom it in. Why do you have alcohol wipes? What are you cleaning? Are you cleaning me? Okay. Ow! That's the edge of the little envelope to keep the foil the alcohol wipes in. All right, I want to view, not the source. I want just to make it a little bigger. Zoom it in. Usually Control and Scroll or Control Plus. And I've tried both of those, Control and the Command, because this is a Mac. Oh well, we'll deal with that later. For now, I'll be looking a little bit below you guys. That's all. All right, so here's what they were discussing. This is the what do they call this plug? The J3068, up to 52 kilowatts, three phase, or 20 kilowatts, one phase. So that's going to be the same as the J1772 and the NACS on single phase, up to 20 kilowatts, 80 amps at 240. But then you can do 52 kilowatts of three phase on there as well. So that's why I'm talking about the larger trucks. Uh, After getting everybody switched to NACS, they're not going to then have everybody use Type 2 over here as well, because three phase power is not that common to be just readily available. But if you're building out a truck depot, if you're building out a truck depot and you don't want to install DC chargers, you'll probably make this available, especially if your trucks have an inlet for it. The author points out that having detachable cables means that you won't get there and find that the station has cables that have been sliced. Some of the commenters are like, well, somebody will slice your cables. I find that the copper thieves are less likely to bother a car that's actively charging. One, for fear of getting zapped, and two, I guess they're not as big of jerks as they seem. Let me just strand you here and steal your cable. That may change with detachable cables. It may not. We will see. All right. So AC and DC on the same connector. That's not new to those of us with Tesla, and I discussed that earlier. Similar to say A1772 with additional 2 pins that CCS are talking about. Here we go. Another upside is in medium and heavy duty vehicles, they can charge at 52 instead of just 20. Finally, these boons add together to a world where it's easier to install and maintain chargers and easier for everyone to use those chargers wherever they're parked, which means more cars plugged in at any given time. I guess what they're saying there is if a parking lot is full of lamppost chargers, then that helps you out with if you have if your cars with vehicle to grid, if you have it just allows more people to be plugged in and an opportunity charging. Some of the comments there were, oh, they're just going to reduce the output. Maybe we'll see. The narrative that this author was going for was that the new detachable plugs option allows people who don't have off street regular parking, like at an office or at a house or a townhouse or whatever, to get their charging done. And then the increased voltage allowance and the detachable cables will allow folks who have condos and apartment complexes to feel a little more comfortable about doing installations because now instead of having to get a transformer to transform their commercial power down to something that can fit in J1772, it's not hard. It's just depending on your site layout and your electrician and your those sorts of things, it could end up costing because you'll have to add in step down transformers and that sort of thing, or reconfigure a circuit to put out a different type of power. Versus with the NACs, you can just pull a leg off a three phase, pop it in there, and you're good to go. Well, not it's essentially like that. Don't go doing it yourself unless you're an electrician. Uh, Decision point is ironic, considering NAC's existence seems to be spurred by Nevi. Oh, okay. So they're talking about how this came about partially because of Nevi, and now that it's available and people are starting to install it, that they're wondering if the Nevi program, part of the new tax incentives, will allow or require NACs. Right now, it doesn't disallow it, but for those places that decide they want to install dual CCS connections, that's it's really on them. But at the same time, since it is government money, that's on all of us as well. And next year, mm, next model year, 2025, we're going to have car shipping with native NAC ports. All right, let's look at their top comment here. This is all really good news. The EU folks like to talk about how nice it is to have three-phase charging. Well, we won't be able to charge each car at three-phase speeds. We'll have the ability to install 3 times the number of chargers per line, one per leg. This is true, so that's another way that would work. For level, so they would have to then, I guess, point out when you get to a pole, if it only supplies single phase, they'd have to say single phase only, and that there'd be more of those. So maybe they would want a sticker that says three-phase available or something to that effect. But I guess that would depend on how often you'd AC charge a commercial vehicle rather than just going to a DC charger. Because if it's on your own facility, you would already know which ones are for the trucks and which ones are not. So the flexibility is nice, but I don't know how many public three-phase sockets we'll have out there. Because, like I said, three-phase is already not as widespread as you would expect. One of the commenters was talking about how in their rural area, the poles only have 2 lines going through. They don't have all 3 phases because I guess there's no commercial or industrial users out in their part of the town, and a lot of commercial power can run just fine on 240 depending on what they're doing. Okay, let's continue on with this comment. Um, for level 2, wait for somebody to carry cord is a great idea. And then you have people complaining that, oh, the cord's going to get dirty. What am I going to do with it? Then some people are like, put your cord in a bag like a normal person. And then some other people stepped in like, well, what if it's raining? I'm going to have a dirty cord in the bag. Well, at some point, you're going to have to open up the bag and air it out. Somebody else thought it would be a really cool idea to, at that point, have a retractable cord reel, which could be done, but I don't see that happening. So anyway, that is JNax. Let me take a look and see what that beeping was about real quick, and then we'll continue on. It didn't affect this. Eddie said starting late today. Yes, Eddie, sure did, because the computer didn't want to play nice. All right, so let's continue on with the next story, which I don't believe is anything to do about JNax. It's not, but it is. Oh, that's another thing. JNax supports bidirectional charging and vehicle to grid, that sort of thing, just like we saw what Tesla doing with their power share technology. Speaking of bidirectional power, we've got our friends at Volkswagen. We've got a X post here. Volkswagen's ID family models now support bidirectional charging, following in the footsteps of the Tesla Cybertruck and Ford F-150 Lightning. And they've got a Teslarati article. All right, I guess we'll just do it this way because I've got that same one in the notes next. Interesting. Oh, I see why I did that way. It makes sense now. All right, so Volkswagen releases bidirectional charging to ID family. Gotta do something about the text size. Settings. Nope, not settings. Whoops. I know I did it recently. So we're at 110. There we go. I know I did it recently, but I could have sworn I used the PC commands for it. So Volkswagen started offering bidirectional charging on the ID family with its vehicle to home function, which I think is still at this point in time with today's battery tech is the best way to deal with it. Unless your utility is offering just phenomenal overage rates, I don't see the point in wearing out your battery for them at the prices that these automakers are charging for replacement packs. And you can be sure that that's probably not going to be covered under warranty at that point uh, because it was not for driving. So I wouldn't even suggest using it to power your home on the regular. Just cases where you've got a power outage and whatever batteries your home has are depleted, or if your home doesn't have batteries and you go with a solution like that. All right, let me run it off the Volkswagen. Let me run it off the Cybertruck, and then when the power's back, we'll run the power back the other way. So let's see. You can do on their models with 77 kilowatt hour battery and software version 3.5 or higher. VW's vehicle to home function works with power stations and the Integrated Home Energy Management System, or HEMS, for its partner Home Hager Energy. That's a German company. All right, so the next question is that only on German ID4s? Back where it goes. I had the mouse on top of the screen. Bidirectional charging, the home power station activates when the home storage system requires more energy. So this one's going to require a home battery, which is fine. When the home energy system is fully charged, the ID family model stops transferring energy and goes to standby mode. Actively shaping the energy transition. Really, I hadn't read the article. I was just so excited that they had bidirectional charging. So provides up to 30 kilowatt hours a day. What was that supposed to mean there? Tesla released bidirectional charging through PowerShare, which provides up to 30 kilowatt hours a day. That's not at all true. What Tesla did was they assumed that you would be using up to 30 kilowatt hours a day in their last 3 days statement. It wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't that the car can only provide 30 kilowatt hours a day and then shuts off. It's 30 kilowatt hours is a lot, by the way. It's not everything, but it's a lot. But I guess what we're assuming here is that if the power's gone out for what looks like days on end, you're probably not be drying your hair and um, running the oven. You would probably want to switch to an air fryer or a toaster oven, and and maybe use an air dryer on your hair. That was so weird. They called out 30. Who wrote this article? Okay, okay, so not who I thought it was. That's fine. It's a once in a lifetime project. We decided to realize 350 project. Oh, okay. Talking about where they've deployed it. That's kind of cool. All right, so this one is some. Like I said, I want all of these EV manufacturers to survive and thrive. However, that's an unrealistic goal. We've got Lucid. They will be removed from the Nasdaq 100 at the end of this week, and that was 2 days ago. So they're gone. One thing I had said about they called it stream test on X. Oh my goodness, X. They asked what I wanted to call everything, so I put it all in there, and it should all match what it says on YouTube, and it clearly does not. So the other question is this a live video, or are we looking at a, what do you call it? Are we looking at a live video or a spaces? I'm gonna click it. It should have like Hall of Mirrors effect. Okay, cool. So it is this. That's fun. Um, I've never seen it do it this way while we were live. I knew it was out there and I knew I could watch it, but I never saw that. But that's awesome. So we see this with a lot of the companies that had the SPAC craze during the pre and early COVID era, where they would reverse merger with these companies that just sit on the books for the purpose of making it easier for you to get listed on the stock market. And a lot of them have gone out of business, or they just aren't doing as hot as they were at first, and folks lost a lot of money in this. And this is not stock advice. This is not a financial planning channel. It's just that is something we cautioned you about at the time. Like, hey, if you've got the spare money, talk to your people, decide what you want to do with this. But it wasn't something that we were all saying, hey, let's go do this. I think I did buy a little, like, Monday, Tuesday shares of a couple of the SPACs for the companies that I was interested in, but we were saying that's super risky. And as we see, look at that. Well, they haven't been delisted. They're just removed from the Nasdaq 100. But the rate they've been going, they could be delisted as well. Shortly after this happened, do I have it on there? Yes, I do. So we'll talk about that on the next story. Tesla nearly failed multiple times. They didn't have to compete with Tesla. This is true. Yet again, another company that will die because of poor leadership. They could have been very successful if they had the right people behind them. Probably a wise move. They're down to $4 a share. Ouch. At the time. Not good news. What will happen with the shares I have? Well, if they're just being removed from the Nasdaq 100, you're fine. If they're being delisted, that's a curious question. What was really shocking is that Lucid was in the Nasdaq 100 index in the first place. Yeah, when you look at how long it took Tesla to get in there, and then how they performed for a little bit after they got there, they pulled it off. But wow. And then what was really weird about it was when they were qualifying to get in, they still got kind of like nose thumbed at them for an extra consideration cycle, and then the next one they got in. All right, so let's see. I was a non-profitable company ever selected because it's not about the profits. It's about the stock. Those are two different concerns. All right, so they're out of the NASDAQ 100 now, and let's look at what happened right after this happened. Now, I don't know if this is the person who just took the job or if this is the original person and it just happened to take effect right now. So they got out of the NASDAQ 100, and then their CFO resigned, effective immediately. Ooh, that text is tiny. If I click on it, does it get better? Not much. Let's see if I open this in a new window. How do I make it smaller? It only gets bigger if I scroll on it. Let's see. Oh, well, that's the image, so I was going to click on the PDF version. We'll just scroll on it. I don't care at this point. Uh, Sherry House, CFO of Lucid, has informed the company that she is resigning from her position effective immediately to pursue other opportunities. Uh, Ms. House will be available in an advisory role through December 31st, 2023 to assist in the transition of her duties. Gagan Dingra, Lucid's current vice president of accounting and principal accounting officer, will additionally serve as interim CFO and principal financial officer effective immediately while Lucid's search for a replacement CFO is underway. So I think she might be the new person. And that's not good to be going through CFOs like that. It does not instill confidence in the market. I hope they make it. I wish them well, but that's also not very realistic, I suppose. All right, so let's talk more about companies not doing what we expect them to do. What was that? I've muted my audio. Um, where did that come from? Oh, I see. I wasn't even clicking there. All right, audio's back. Something was going on in the background. So Ford says they're cutting their F-150 Lightning production by 50% in 2024, which is not what we expected to see, and it looks like they're going to follow GM into trying to save their way into profitability. Right now, they are not really profitable on the F-150 Lightning. It's just like GM's not really profitable on the Ultium cars. That doesn't mean that Ford is giving up, and GM has announced more plans. We'll see what becomes of them because GM talks a lot. They do work, but they are kind of Toyota-like in how much they talk and release press releases. Um, both of them are almost as much press release as VW is. But what Ford said they're going to do is they're going to have a new truck from the ground up designed to be electric rather than uh, taking the shell off of the gas truck and then putting a new platform underneath that's electrified. That new platform and that old shell have cost them a lot of money, and so apparently they want to stem the bleeding. The company has cited the changing market demands as the reason, which is code for our dealers are marking this thing up and can't move it, and they're not showing it, and we can't sell it, and the interest rates are high, blah blah blah. All of the same, oh, electric cars aren't selling crap you've heard in the news, which is not true on the whole. If you look at an individual line, yes, it could be true, but it's not true on the whole because I'm not just saying Tesla. If you look worldwide and nationwide, the numbers of EVs sold is up year over year. So to say they're not selling is a bald-faced lie. There's an agenda there. because the claims don't match the numbers. So Ford told their suppliers to prepare for an average volume of around 1,600 Lightnings a week, down from 3,200 a week today. Hate to see it happen. It's a solid truck. At the same time, slowing it down will also allow them to easily change out the architecture behind the port. But I wonder if that might mean that the new truck is going to be ready sooner than we expect. That's pure speculation on my part. Oh boy. All right, now we're going to have the Debbie Downer section. We're going to talk about IF Metal versus Tesla. That's the Swedish union and the Swedish Mechanics Union. And they have in the past claimed that all 130 mechanics in Tesla Sweden are on strike with them. And we've seen by their own admission of the mechanics that is not the case. So let's see what's going on this week over there in Sweden. First up, they tried to get a sympathy strike out of the German union, IG Metal. They have almost the same name. It's a G instead of an F. So IG Metal, they said, you strike for your own business, you strike for your own wages. A political strike would mean violating the duty to work. So basically, they feel that IF Metal can go deal with their own problems, and we will deal with our people, and we're not getting sucked into this mess. So it seems that IG Metal has seen what is really happening, and they don't want to bring their people down with this. As we saw last week, there were 20 people at the hydroforming plant that stand to completely lose their jobs, and IF Metal approved for them to get laid off when the company went to them and said, "Hey, we don't have anything for these people to do. Your business with Tesla has now, since these people won't do the Tesla orders, we have nothing for these people to do." And with that, uh, when it came down to it, oh look, a comment from Exotic Geeks. Sorry, the new comment structure is I still need to finish rearranging these things. I'm sorry on all that. So Exotic Geeks says, did is that due to cost knowledge on the market? I would say it probably is. And did Lucid join the Danish crew? They sure did. And would a redesign work? I think that the Fugly Cybertruck is selling, and it's the equivalent of the scraggly small dog. So what's funny about that, you mentioned it, is the renderings I saw of Ford's next gen truck. They look a lot like the Cybertruck. They were kind of angular and kind of like they had more like rounded edges, but it looked like a Cybertruck with rounded edges to me. And it even had the way the light bar came across. It looked like a Cybertruck with round edges and a Ford badge on the front. It's like, all right, at this point, are you going to buy some components from Tesla? Like, just buy the autopilot, buy the battery, buy all that, and then call it a day. Because Tesla used to supply parts to other automakers, and then when Toyota took their ball and went home, Tesla just redirected all those resources into building their own vehicles. So they didn't have to break the contract on their own. So IG Metal says, yeah, we're not going to do that. To be honest, if they still support IF Metal, they just say this would be illegal in Germany for good reasons. Yeah, it would be illegal in Germany. It would be illegal in the US. It would be hella illegal in the UK. We support strikes and labor disputes and all that, but what we don't support is these sympathy actions. There are ways that you can do some sympathy action, but not like this, especially not if you don't have anybody on strike at the company. This is another level. Exotic Geek says, who designed Cybertruck? So Cybertruck design is kind of interesting. People are saying that, oh, Elon can't design a car. He was the lead designer on Roadster, so that is, if you look at the two, you say that's not right. He was not the lead designer on Model S because he wasn't that good at doing a four-door car. So that's where they had Fisker on board. Fisker didn't want to cooperate with some of the stuff that Musk was just kind of pulling out of left field, and the way he kind of drop of a hat. Let's try this. Let's do that. Fisker's like, it's all about the beauty, the this, the that. I'm gonna meet the design requirements. And then there was also some other stuff that went on to the point where when the first Fisker Karma came out, Tesla sued, saying that was the design we were trying to make him make for us, and now he's using it for himself. But then Elon met Franz. Franz said that thing is ugly. I can do better. And then we got the Model S. And so Franz is still the lead designer on the Cybertruck, and he was very involved in that one. And the thing to consider with Cybertruck is they didn't make it look that way because of like like the idea that Elon's kids said the truck should look like the future. That part, yes, but the design was more of a reflection of the materials they were working with. They wanted it to be ultra durable, ultra hard, and so if you use uh, ultra a thick stainless steel, it ends up with a certain uh, the way it ends up. You can't you can't affordably form it the way that you would form current sheet metal on a car. So you can put nice simple curves in it, and you can put uh, bends in it with a brake press, but you can't really put a compound curve in it. So that's why it ends up looking the way it does. It does have a lot of curves, and if you get up close to it, I don't think there are very many straight panels on it. Even the windshield is not straight. It's got a slight curve to it, and if you are standing right behind it, looking at the peak of the roof, it's curved. And I thought that was pretty cool because when you look at it in the picture, it doesn't look like there is a curve on it, which is fun. Let's see. Yeah, so the consensus is that this is surprising that another one of them did the right thing, and that they are in the wrong over at Metal, the IF Metal. So Franz and Ford are going to create the designer on the Ford. I don't know who that's going to be. When you look at Kia, for instance, they incorporate a lot of other people's designs, and once it's out there, it's a lot easier to copy it than to make a fresh one that the public falls in love with. And I'm not saying that Kia is wrong for copying, because remember the whole Apple artist steal thing, but when you look at a lot of the Kia models out there, you'll see pieces from other people's stuff. You'll see, like, oh, that's from Jaguar, that's from Honda, that's from Tesla, that's from. They just put them together, make them look okay, and that's fine too. And so the Ford, to me, the Ford concept, like silhouette that they showed, it looked like a rounded edge Cybertruck with a Ford badge on the front. I wasn't saying they were copying. I'm just saying that it looked familiar. All right, so this one I'm gonna need some help from our Swedish folks because I don't understand what is going on with this one, because we already heard from the Tesla employees. They said, what do they want us to work in filth? So for them to be working in filth tells me that the janitorial services had already been stopped. But now we see this Reuters article saying that the Swedish labor union is to stop collecting Tesla waste. Well, what does that mean? Because didn't they already do that? So my speculation here is that I don't know which was which. The first one that the mechanic was talking about, and then this one. One of them had to have been the garbage collection, like, hey, we're gonna take the dumpsters out, and then the other is the janitorial services. That's the only interpretation I can come to as to how you can stop cleaning up the space twice, unless they had like half of the janitorial crew was on this, and then half of the other janitorial crew was on this other thing, and now you have two different cleanup unions striking against Tesla on behalf of IF Metal. That's the only way that makes any sense to me. All right, so then next we've got, what have they done next? So you might remember Elon did an interview where he said GFY a couple times. Well, this won't go over well in that case. Norway's sovereign wealth fund pressures Tesla in ongoing Swedish labor dispute. And so Tesla's fight against IF Metal has taken another turn. Norway's $1.5 trillion sovereign wealth fund, Norge Bank Investments Management, (NBIM), has called on the automaker to recognize the fundamental labor rights, including the right to collective bargaining. They have recognized the rights. They have a right to not join it. They chose not to join it. Uh, Most of their employees have chosen not to join the union, and so they have no pressure. They've got 10 people ish, 10 to 13 people ish on strike out of 130. And at that point, if you don't want a middleman, because they don't do dealerships, right? So if you don't want a middleman for your customers, do you want a middleman for your employee? So far, Tesla's chosen no. Especially when the employees aren't asking for it. All right. So the backdrop of this plea is an ongoing conflict with IF Metal. Despite facing criticism, NBIM says it remains committed to retaining its 0.88 stake in Tesla, currently valued at 6.8 billion. However, they have signaled intention to influence the company's policies over time. Good luck with that. Elon will just tell you GFY. NBIM revealed in 2022 that it supported a shareholder proposal at Tesla, which sought the implementation of a policy to respect the right to organize. I don't see them disrespecting that. I don't see them helping you either. Although the proposal gained support from 32% of voters, Tesla's board recommended a no vote, highlighting continued divergence between the company's stance and investor expectations. The company is always telling us to vote certain different ways on these proposals, but you are your own people. Vote the way that you feel makes sense. Despite claims that terms offered to Swedish employees are equal to or better than union demands, Tesla's stance has sparked backlash, not only from unions, but also from pension funds. And the employees that people have talked to have said that what the union offers is lower than what they could get on their own. And then some further folks explain that the 130%, I call it a bribe, that IF Metal was offering to join them and go on strike, you actually lose money. Like you lose holiday pay, you lose certain retirement contributions. I don't know exactly what goes into that, but that ends up being a still a pay cut for you, even at the bonus. So they had fewer people take them up on that. Let's see. Yep. So that's that. I think the one we talked about last week was a different fund, and they said that they had divested themselves, but really what they're going to do is slowly, as they can find it profitable, they'll slowly get rid of their Tesla funds. And Elon suggested that, well, that's stupid. And they exposed themselves to uh, a breach of fiduciary duty. And we'll see how that plays out. So we've got a few more IF metal stories, and then we can move on to fun stuff. So this is Nicholas. Nicholas says Tesla always solves problems, sometimes before they even occur. So last couple of weeks we were talking about the problems at PostNord and how Tesla would be unable to collect license plates in the mail, and so then they sued, and they were allowed for like a week to collect license plates directly from the either from PostNord or from the plate place on their own, the factory. They took advantage of that while it was available, and they were coming up 1,000 plates short. So I'm guessing those 1,000 plates were already in the mail. And so Nicholas is highlighting the process for how it works today in Sweden with Tesla to get your license plate. It's not all that different from how it works elsewhere in Europe or how it works here in the States, particularly here in states that don't have a presence from Tesla for usually legal reasons, like Michigan, South Carolina, that sort of thing. In an ingenious way, Tesla solved the problem of getting license plates for its new cars. Tesla's waiting for license plates for thousands of new cars, but Tesla's found a way around IF Metal and PostNord. The trade union IF Metal, oh, okay, I guess that's a translation thing. He reversed it, Metal IF. The screen underneath the camera is reversed. I was like, did it flip? It did not flip. Put an end to Tesla being allowed to supply registration numbers for new deliveries of Tesla cars. Well, they can still do it, but then they'll never get the plate, and the car will sit there, which is what they want. So what Tesla's doing is their lawyers thought and said, all right, let's do this. Now you have a loophole where the registration is possible to deliver new cars to customers. So what you do is you sign a purchase agreement, you pick up your, you sign a purchase or leasing agreement for your car uh, as the buyer, and in advance, Tesla is going to transfer ownership of the car to you, and then now you, as the buyer, own this car, not Tesla. So then you are going to go to request a registration plate, and they'll mail it to you. And then when you come to pick up your car, Tesla will pop the plate on there for you, and you're good to go. And that's kind of how it works here in these places. So like when I got the Model X, I had a temporary plate, 30 days, and on day 29, FedEx came rolling around. They dropped off everything I needed to go to the DMV and get my permanent plates. So I rushed over to DMV and gave them the money they needed, gave them the documents. They created a title from the MSO and gave me a registration plate and the stickers, and I popped it on the car. Simple as that. And so that's how it's going to work in Sweden as well, going forward. And then here is the link to his article. Uh, awesome. If the post office is holding Tesla's mail, people should just send in tens of thousands of postcards to Tesla, forcing the post office to store it all. Um, it's going to be easy enough for them to store a bunch of postcards. Maybe a bunch of small boxes like this Band-Aid box. If you've got the postage for it. Now, eventually, Tesla's going to have to deal with that, so it'd be best to do something they could easily recycle en masse and get rid of, or something that they are going to need. I don't know that you really need to be donating anything to a corporation like toilet paper or whatever, but if you sent them a bunch of fan mail that didn't need to be trashed, something they could recycle, something they could then give to the customers, something like that. If this was something you wanted to do, then yes, eventually, PostNord will incur quite some costs with storage because they are not delivering anything to Tesla. But because it is mail, they can't destroy it. I enjoy that little tit for tat. So if that's something you wanted to do, you could look up a number of the Tesla uh, shops, and I don't know, maybe some tips for the the uh, the mechanics and everybody involved. I don't want to say tips, but like maybe it has to be something that would take a long time to go bad if we were to give them all cookies or something. Um, kind of malicious, returning that sympathy strike. You could have sympathy, make it harder for them to continue this crap. I like it. Nicholas says empty boxes with many shrimps is a better idea. Yes, that would very quickly work for PostNord. The problem is that then eventually PostNord would deliver a box of plenty of boxes of decomposed shrimp to Tesla, and then Tesla has to deal with that. And it may be enough that PostNord gives up on what they're doing, but not enough that that the janitorial services have returned. So that will be and the trash pickup. So and plus a box of stinky decomposed shrimp is probably not recyclable. Yeah, just as Justin says, eventually that mail too would get delivered to Tesla, so we don't want that. Thomas says what Elon would say. IF metal GFY. All right, so let's see what we've got next. We're almost through with the metal. We've got two more stories, and then Andrew sent one in last night. Let's take a look. All right, so the Tesla Sweden strike estimate denied by IF Metal. So what happened here is, like I said, in the past, IF Metal has gone around saying that they had 130 people on strike. which was like I said, a bald faced lie. They never had 130 people on strike. They had a tiny handful of the people involved on strike. And so then what happened with that was the local Tesla club decided they're there. Let's go get boots on the ground and compare what we're hearing from these anonymous interviews with the employees and what we're hearing from Metal's proclamations and see what really is true. Because again, in a situation like this, there is no neutral party, so there is no uh, impartial reporting. Every report we get is tainted in some way, and so you have to take it all in and decide for yourself. So what they wanted to do was get some numbers, some actual hands-on that they could see where what side is closer here. Is it what Tesla's saying? Is it what the employees are saying? Is it what Metal is saying? If that's the case, then maybe we should support them. But yet again, nothing supports what Metal is saying. The Tesla Sweden Club took upon itself to calculate how many workers actually have joined the IF Metal strike. However, the Swedish union has denied their numbers, and while they deny it, they say that's not right. All right, well, if it's not what they said, then how many is it? Nothing. So it's not exactly what they were saying, is it? Doesn't support what they are suggesting. It's like if you can't say a number, then it must be bad, huh? Or it would get you in some sort of legal trouble, wouldn't it? What's going on around here? All right, so saw that assignment. It was a greatly underestimated figure, says Jasper Pedersen, IF Metals press officer. Now, what happened is Tesla Club Sweden calculated that 13 union members have joined the strike against Tesla. According to the club, there are 10 Tesla workshops in Sweden, and members of the club visited the repair shops across Sweden and asked service technicians how many of their colleagues have joined Metal's strike against Tesla. So Tesla Club Sweden accounted for 9 technicians in this town, 3 workers in that town, Uppsala, Ume. So 9 in Ume. I've totally butchered your town. I'm sorry. 3 in Uppsala, and 1 in Gothenburg. So out of the 10 service shops that have joined the strike, Tesla Sweden has reportedly has 130 technicians, the same 130 that IF Metal tried to claim at first. Given the owner club's numbers and Tesla Sweden's total technician count, 10% of the workers at automakers' workshops have joined the strike. Now, if the Metal's initial numbers were true, that 130 people were missing, you'd be able to see that because they'd all be out front with pickets doing the picket line. Even if it was 50 people, you would still notice that. It's very easy to miss 13 people at 10 shops when you've got 130 people. And this could be all of them right there, couldn't it? um, the Swedish union has not provided an accurate figure of the Tesla workers who have joined the strike. However, if Metal has shared that the strike only involves workers wishing its contractual area, meaning not all workers for Tesla. So basically, what they're getting at here is that if they were to get what they want, this wouldn't cover any white collar Tesla employees at the shops. So far, IF Metal's strike has gained more support from other unions and companies than Tesla Sweden employees themselves. It's true. Other Swedish organizations and trade unions like Seco have conducted sympathy strikes with IF Metal. The IG Metal Germany shares its 2 cents on IF Metal strike against Tesla, stating that the initiative to unionize should come from employees. So they kind of agree with most of us that it's backwards, and I thought that was humorous. The only thing is that in a few short years, transportation of just about everything is going to change. If Sweden, the hardheads in India or elsewhere were to stand out in front of the avalanche, ill-advised, perhaps temporary heroes, a very likely fact, a new generation of auto with 20% of the ICE auto parts and almost none of the traditional assembly steps will probably eliminate more than 80% of the current labor per unit. Plus, less people driving if this robotaxi thing ever or whenever this robotaxi thing happens. Either more affordable units or fewer hardheads snubbing their nose at the avalanche. So the current rate, there will be labor bubbles followed by housing stock inflation bubbles. Okay, whatever. Sweden doesn't need Tesla to push electric cars forward. Volvo and Polestar is doing great. Okay. Since we're talking a low total number of employees, it's simply too much to count them and say Tesla is wrong. It's XX number, right? I could believe Tesla may be incorrect, but if that's the case, give us the correct figure. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're wrong, and then all right, well, what's right? The other thing here is again, these people are collecting a strike pay of 130%. So you have to know who you're mailing the checks to. How many checks did you send out last pay period? Okay, that's how many people are on strike. And if you want to say, oh well, the number of people that we have collecting checks is a lie, then how many people do you think are collecting the checks that are still working? Which is very immoral. I don't know if it's legal, but it's very easy to know how many checks you're sending out. Hey, baby. Yeah, you have shoes. Why are you wearing mommy's shoes? You're gonna fall. We don't wear shoes in this house. Yeah, you holding your nose and talking? No, but you are. All right, so let's open up a new article. We're gonna do. All right, this one's the same one we talked about earlier about the trash pickup, just from somewhere else. So we're gonna do this article from Anders instead. Um, Anders didn't write it, but Anders found it for us and shared it with us. I'm not mummy. You're wearing mommy's shoes, yes. Standing in mommy's shoes is more accurate because you can't walk in those. You fall over. Choo choo. Oh, watch your head. She bopped her head on the corner of my chair. All right, so this one Anders is sharing with us, Nicholas, talking about several Danish followers. Let's see. I got this from several Danish followers. The rate of information in this article is insane. The low numbers of actual strikers within Tesla should be enough, good enough reason not to do it at all. The information comes from 3F, which is another organization affiliated with the union. How could you trust anything of the content? Tesla haven't fought anything. If it was IF Metal who couldn't accept a no from 90% of the employees and therefore started the strike on October 27th. To sign an agreement or contract in Sweden under threat is not allowed and shouldn't be anywhere. Yeah, contracts or agreements made under duress in this country are void. So to say that this isn't that it would be, I don't know what you'd call it, but that's as big to say that you're not doing that to try to affect what you want. But I think that putting the pressure is legal in Sweden, but I don't know that we'll have to let the courts decide on that part. It's not mandatory to sign a collective agreement, and if it would be by law, if it was, it would be law, and that it would never happen. My own take on this is that the union's power of sympathy strikes has come to an end, and they will probably happen, and that will probably happen when this war is over. Yeah, because now you've got a group that's trying to save face, and you've got Musk who fights to the very edge on stuff that he feels he's right on, and since it's not a legal requirement that they join a union, the only way I see them winning this is if all of Tesla's employees were to join the union, in particular that union. And this is kind of the same situation he's running into with Fremont and UAW. He's like, hey, you guys want to unionize? Fine, but don't be stupid and pick that one, because UAW circled the wagons when it was time for the Toyota employees to get protection during the auto crisis of 2008, and a lot of those employees were still at Tesla. It's like, hey, do you want to trust these people to do that to you again? And so far, they've never voted to do it back again, even though UAW is up in there at least once a month trying to stir up the pot. All right, so his understanding of the Tesla conflict in Sweden. I think this is a recap of everything we've been doing the last couple of weeks. Since October, the Swedish mechanics have been on strike to get an agreement. Swedish Mechanics Union has been on strike to get an agreement, and now Danish 3F has also declared itself ready to strike in sympathy with their Swedish friends. Here you can learn more about what the strike is about. Yeah, and the same thing from this. I'm going to add that you saw with Germany, where Germany said, "Nah, that's not right. We're not going to do that." Apparently, in uh, the Danes, that's not a problem for them. If you own a Tesla, like all other cars, it needs to be serviced from time to time. This takes place in a so-called Tesla store, where the mechanics are specially trained to repair the American cars. But employees do not have a collective agreement with Sweden or in Sweden, and therefore they have gone on strike to get it. Sure, maybe the 13 people we found, but really, I have metal went on strike. The owner of Tesla, an American Okay, I see they've translated the article for us. Okay, so this is the article. Uh, the American multi-billionaire Elon Musk has like, why do they always say how much money somebody's got in these sort of things? Does it matter? Billionaire, he's evil. I guess that's what that's for. It's like boogeyman. He's got too much. He should share. Has reportedly expressed his reluctance to agreements and has also instructed the Swedish division not to enter one in Sweden. Right. This is right after the GFY situation. He's like, yeah, we're not gonna um, not gonna get me with money like that. So since then, several professional groups have gone on strike in sympathy with the Tesla Mechanics Union, and among them the Swedish electricians, car painters, and port workers who do not want to service the cars and who are blocking deliveries of Tesla cars in several Swedish ports. 3F will not transport Tesla cars to Sweden. Okay. In Denmark, 3F has now declared itself ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with their Swedish colleagues, striking against Tesla, but not Tesla colleagues. And 3F will not transport Tesla cars to Sweden or help unload Tesla cars in Danish ports. Interesting. That would be interesting right there. They won't help unload the cars, so Tesla could make things difficult for them by just filling up boats that they don't own with Teslas. Same way you guys suggested that we load them up with mail, and so now they've got all these boats that can't do anything or can only move one or two cars because they're full of Teslas, and they've got this sympathy strike going on. So now um, you'll have the boat owners, boat operators, you'll have them against the sympathy strike as well. 3D chess. Because they can't get them off at any point, so you can just add more to it. They won't help unload them. Let's see. In Denmark, Tesla stores don't have a collective agreement either. There's no Tesla store with a collective agreement. But Dansk Metal organizes the mechanics in Denmark, is in dialogue with the car manufacturer. Yeah, you can talk all you want, but good luck with that. Several Nordic pension companies are now intensifying their pressure on the major car manufacturer Tesla. Yeah, their 0.3% of shares outstanding is really hurting Tesla, uh, especially since they're not actually selling it. Tesla has already fought the unions in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland, as the American electric car maker has refused to enter agreements with the Swedish mechanics. It's their choice. Now, a number of significant Nordic pension companies, led by Denmark's Pension Denmark and PFA, are joining forces to try and influence Tesla and the company's owner, Elon Musk, to reconsider their position. They have therefore written a letter to Tesla's management where they call on the company to resolve the conflict and enter into an agreement with Swedish IF Metal. The beatings will continue till morale improves. Remus Bessing, the head of investments at PFA, says that PFA has chosen to be a co-signatory in the letter to the management of Tesla, where we draw attention to the fact that Sweden and other Nordic countries, there's a long tradition of entering into collective agreements with a large part of the labor market. This is the way we've always done it. You're going to continue to do it, or else there will be punishment. Okay. The contents of the letter have not yet been made public, so it's unclear what exactly it says, but at least the broad strokes that people have gleaned from it. Pension Denmark states that the intention of the letter is to get Tesla to recognize the Nordic labor market model. The strike against Tesla Sweden has been going on since the end of October. Yes. And then there's a link to the actual article in the untranslated form. Maybe the most important word is tradition. It's not law. Does Mr. Bessing read his own statements? I hope Tesla took notes on who to do business with and who not to. The sympathizers will lose good contracts. Some of them are going to lose the contracts anyway for breach of contract, like the hydrometal. They had to deliver so many basically bumper beams by X date, and they have failed to do that. Let's see. Last point I see is very weak from the Swedish government to not take action. They should have recognized by now that the system is faulty. They need to. No, they're not going to. It's tradition. Unions control Sweden at the moment. Yeah, that's the other part of it right there. The unions are very strong in the politics there. It's important to state that the Tesla workers had the choice and voted against the unions, as did in California as well. I agree with that part, and the rest of it, that's opinion. It's rather disturbing that 3F should be focused on their members' interests, instead project untrue narrative for political gain. Why anyone would be a member of such a union when they're untrustworthy? Okay, I'd say that one is, yeah. All right, so let's go on now that we're done talking about IF Metal in Sweden and talk about somewhat more fun stuff. We've got spinning. The 2024 Hyundai Kona electric pricing is starting at just $34,000. And my understanding is it doesn't qualify for the tax credit, but that's not a bad price when you look at the average selling price of cars in this country. So there you go. Also, next year, the 2025 model will have a NACS port, and this one, the 2024 model, will come with an available adapter to NACS. So we're going to go here. We're not going to actually watch the video because because we're not. The why? Yeah, that's the browser. Okay, I don't hear anything in here. Let's check here real quick. Okay, I didn't miss anybody. So Tom Scott got some time with Neo, and with Neo, he was able to experience a battery swap. And he pointed out that at the moment, the current offer is you buy or lease the car and rent the battery, or you buy the battery and then you have to buy access to this, which we talked about when they were making the switch earlier. Because if you own the battery, you own a battery, it gets messy. And so if they own the battery, then they don't have to worry about what they're giving you back. That was a fun video, and let me put it in the YouTube chat. Lee says, "Happy Sunday." Why lie? They're lying because they want power. They want those union dues. They want to keep control over the media outlets that they have control over, and they want to keep control over the politicians that they have control over. They have a was it either 1 billion or 1 trillion strike fund that they can continue to pay these people from. So they think that they can outlast Mr. Musk's resolve. We will see, because the more of them that join up, the more they got to pay. So they're going to run out eventually, uh, and then that's a great price. I agree, and that's why I wanted to share it with everybody, because that's darn right affordable compared to some of the stuff we've seen over the weeks. Oh, and then here's a link to Tom's video that you can watch later about the current state of Neo battery swap. Um, Now we're going to talk about Mazda again. I don't know why we talk about Mazda so much um, when we are talking about EVs and green cars. I guess they just keep inserting themselves into the conversation. So Mazda will show off, will slow electrification even more than initially planned. It hopes to debut 7 to 8 new EV models by 2030. And do you think this will be enough for Mazda to be competitive in the EV space? No. If they want to be an also ran, then yeah, I see. If Mazda not doesn't change anything, I see Mazda going out of business. Uh, we saw already that they canceled the one EV that they sell in the States, the 100-mile range vehicle. And yes, 100 miles is enough for your daily commute, but then you have to be able to afford a $30,000 to $40,000 commuter car, like extra car that doesn't do what you need for everything else. And I'm a big person to say that you don't need a car that does everything, but you do need a car that gets you through a big chunk of the year. Yeah, you don't need a pickup truck for the one load of gravel that you move a year for your garden or whatever. But if you do that every month, then it might be worth looking at a pickup truck. If you do that every week, then it might not be a bad idea to have the pickup truck, the electric pickup truck, obviously. Um, I mean, you can decide what you really need, but if you only do it once a year, it's $19.99 to rent a pickup truck for a day or an hour, whatever it is. So this is what they used to have, the MX-30 crossover 100-mile range, almost $40,000, and it did not qualify for the tax credit. So this one is going to be coming back as a hybrid, a la the Volt and the Ram Charger, where it'll have a large battery, but not 100 miles large. So I don't know if you call it large, but larger than a regular hybrid, and some kind of hybrid engine, like they they love the rotary, so they were talking about the rotary, but we'll see if they actually put it in there, because they'll promise the rotary, and then give you a 4-cylinder. Another Boy Who Cried Wolf situation. Tesla tidbits suggest that the market may have passed them before then. I guess it depends on how quickly they can get at least 1 to 3 of them out. Agreed. Mazda is already out of the running by dragging their feet on EVs. Yeah, who do they think they are, Toyota? They don't have the resources to just flip on a dime like that. Mazda's already out of the running by dragging their feet on EVs. They should have been serious about electrification when they debuted the Skyactiv technology back in 2011. Better odds of the picture below becoming a reality. But are they next? No, they're not, because they don't have anything that can take it right now. So I love Mazda, but they are doomed. They are already too late on the EV game, and it's about to get worse. Mazda think they're safe and insulated in the US, but if they don't act more urgently, they will eventually have the same situation at the US that they have in China today. Mazda is getting cooked and outsold by startups like NIO and Xpeng. This will happen elsewhere. Let's take a look at the article. He's linked us here. Tokyo, July 14th. Japan's Mazda Motors needs to overhaul its strategy in China, the world's biggest auto market, where it faces increasingly tough competition from domestic players, including the automakers From domestic players, the automaker's chief executive said on Friday. Production output will be low for the time being while pressure on profits is increasing, he told reporters at a roundtable meeting. The important thing is to turn the tide and introduce electric vehicles one by one, he says. Ooh. During a visit to Mazda China's unit last month, Morrow said he discussed with the joint venture's management efforts to catch up to the high speed of electrification. Yeah, they're not in a good place. Rightly. uh, copy this link, and we're going to ignore the political angle of this. This is just basically telling us, we talked about those NEVI stations. Well, the first EV charging station from the infrastructure plan has opened in Ohio. I don't know if this is a stock photo or what, but everybody was saying that, oh, look, it's got NACS and CCS. But in all the photos I could see, I didn't see anything but the CCS. So I don't know if somebody on the ground said that and then didn't have a picture of it or what. But this first station is a EVgo. It's located in a pilot travel center. Not pilot as in like a trial, but pilot the brand in Madison County of West Columbus. The station was installed by EVgo and features 4 charging stalls for up to 350 kilowatts when a single EV is charging, or 175 kilowatts when 4 EVs are charging. So whatever cabinets are there are going to power share. And it sounds like they are 175 each. And then if there's just nobody on the second one, or however it works, they'll by number of outputs, they'll power share up and give you 350 unless you get three or four cars. And then they'll come on down. Well, I expect as much as 140 million in NEVI funds distributed over the course of 5 years, and the state says that the first batch of EV fast chargers funded by the program are expected to open by the end of the year. But the article says it's open, so why would you then say you expect them to open by the end of the year? Who wrote this? Okay, not the person I thought. Updated in 12:46 Mountain Time. Corrected the second paragraph to note that the 175 kilowatt speed applies when 4 EVs are charging. So up to 3, you can get 350 kilowatts. Not bad. That EVgo must be owned by some senator. They probably have some connections to get through all of the red tape so fast. EVgo is the worst charging network. Simply paying them is a nightmare when they work at all. They're incredibly slow. Instead of getting taxpayer money, they deserve to go out of business or be taken over by a company that knows how to design chargers and make charging more efficient. Ouch. But they've earned this reputation on their own. So let's continue on because we have a lot of stories. Copy this here. This one is a Canadian story, basically. North America, though. Tesla's going to build the largest purpose-built service center in North America in Vancouver, British Columbia. So what this is Tesla typically will, for their service centers and their sales centers, they will, so sales centers or galleries, depending on what state they're in, they'll typically take over a car dealership or like a warehouse or any number of spaces that they have enough volume to do what they want. Very rarely will they build out a new building. And here, they're going to build out the largest one in North America, in Vancouver. So it's going to be 120,000 square feet sales, service, and delivery center in the Strathcona region neighborhood. According to Beetle Group, the new flagship location will be built at a vacant site at 950 Raymer Avenue. BD says they will begin construction in Q1 2024 and expect to have the service center completed 2 years later in the first quarter of 2026. Once complete, it will be Tesla's most expansive service center in Canada and North America. So that'll be cool. Tesla says the operations in the new Vancouver facility will include servicing, vehicle prep, delivery operations, and a showroom. And they're pleased to have been partnered with the developer there. Moving on, we've got another tweet from Sawyer Merritt. Paste it, go. Yes, I could load all these up earlier, but my browser was being weird. And since I'm pushing these directly to you guys, I don't want to risk this thing stalling out. Porsche says in their upcoming Macan EV, they'll have optional heads-up display with augmented reality. Comes out in 2024. Has a 100 kilowatt hour battery, up to 603 horsepower, which is a lot, but not compared to any of their competition. 800 volt charging architecture, 270 kilowatts charging, and a 300-mile range. And still no NAC support because they were part of the VW group. Now the heads-up display looks really cool. We'll see if it actually looks that way. That was really the only thing that impressed me about this vehicle. I mean, if you're into brand names, it's a Porsche. That interior has a cleaner interior than some of the cars with lots of buttons, and they still have their analog clock like their tradition entails. And later on, it was pointed out that they've actually discontinued the gas version of this, so they're going all electric on it. Matt Van was shocked that Tesla doesn't have a HUD, and I said I'm not because Elon doesn't like them. He apparently thinks they all look like GM units from the early aughts to 2010. At least that's what he described. The HUD and augmented display stuff is still gimmicky and distracting. 300 miles with a 100 kilowatt hour battery. They're obviously focusing on the wrong things. Uh, so I guess he's expecting them to go further, but you're not going to go much further with something that looks like that for aerodynamics with that size battery. Like, look at the Model X. It's much more slippery, and it's got a roughly 100 kilowatt hour battery and can now go further. But mine was sold at 289 miles, and never got that. Heads-up display, in my experience, never worked well. 50% more expensive, bigger battery, less range, coming out in 2024. Whereas another EV, which is better on all aspects, that you can purchase now. Well, I'll let you guys argue about that. All right, we got another X post. Paste and go. All right, I'm going to hit that button. A couple of you guys are about to receive. Wait, no, I don't want to do it that way. Hang on. Oh, I see why. Never mind. I got to have 5 for it to work. Really? That's not what they described to me. Yeah. Never mind. So we'll talk about that later if it comes to be. So we've got 5, but not all on YouTube. All right. So what happened here is that the Washington Post wrote an article about Tesla that they felt strongly about. So they rebutted the article right here on X. So Tesla says, while there are many articles that, what? What's up? You don't need shoes. It's raining outside. Yeah, you took them out of here. Remember? Okay. I don't have any shoes in here. So we keep our shoes outside on the front of the house. Yeah. If you want shoes, they're over there. So Tesla rebutted the article, and they say that while there are many articles that do not accurately convey the nature of our safety systems, the recent Washington Post article is particularly egregious in its misstatements in lack of relevant context. We at Tesla have a moral obligation to continue improving our already best-in-class safety systems. I think the zoom is per site. Yes, it is. Okay. Woo. There we go. At the same time, we also believe that it's morally reprehensible. I wonder if Elon dictated this. Morally indefensible not to make these systems available available to a wider set of consumers, given the incontrovertible data that shows it is saving lives and preventing injury. Regulators around the globe have a duty to protect consumers, and the Tesla team looks forward to continuing our work with them towards the common goal of eliminating as many deaths and injuries as possible on our roadways. Zoom this one more time. There we go. Now let's scroll. Regulators around the globe. Just read that one. But below are important facts, context, and background. Safety metrics are emphatically stronger when autopilot is engaged than when it's not engaged. Some people say, oh, well, what if it's going to crash? That doesn't count because it kicks itself out. It tends to kick itself out about 5 to 8 seconds before something happens. And I think like the last like 15 to 20 seconds, if autopilot is engaged, it counts as an autopilot crash. And somebody's like, oh, well, that's still not enough time. Like, if your hands are on the wheel and you're paying attention to what's happening, that is plenty of time to bring the vehicle to a stop with hard braking. So I think it's fair. In the fourth quarter of 2022, we recorded one crash for every 4.85 million miles driven, which drivers are using autopilot technology. For drivers who were not using autopilot technology, we recorded one crash for every 1.4 million miles. By comparison, the most recent data available from the NHTSA and FHWA from 2021 shows that in the United States, there was an automobile crash approximately every 652,000 miles. I like they're including their sources here. B, the data is clear. The more automation technology offered to support the driver, the safer the driver and other road users. Anecdotes from the Washington Post article come from plaintiff attorneys, cases involving significant driver misuse, and are not substitutes for rigorous analysis and billions of miles of data. Recent data continues this trend and is more compelling. Autopilot is 10 times safer than the US average and 5 times safer than a Tesla with no AP tech enabled. More detailed information will be publicly available in the near future. Yeah, we're at the end of the year, so they probably are due for another report on this. Autopilot features, including traffic-aware cruise control and auto steer, are SAE Level 2 driver assist systems, meaning that whether the driver chooses to engage auto steer or not, the driver is in control of the vehicle at all times. The driver is notified of this responsibility, consents, and agrees to monitor the driving assistance, and can disengage at any time. And you're reminded of this every time you turn the system on. But the very first time you turn on the capability for the system to do that, there's a long page of what you have to do. And it's not like legal speak, it's all like plain English. Or whatever language you have your interface set to. Despite the driver being responsible for control of the vehicle, Tesla has a number of additional safety measures designed to monitor that drivers engage in an active driver supervision, including torque-based and camera-based monitoring. We continue to make progress involving these monitoring systems to reduce misuse. So, like, if you ever tried to put a fruit in your steering wheel or like little weights and found that it no longer works, that was Tesla fighting you. If you ever picked up your phone and then the car beeped at you, that was Tesla updating these systems. C. Based on the above, among automakers, the data strongly indicates that our customers are far safer by having the choice to decide when it's appropriate to engage autopilot features. When used properly, it provides safety benefits on all road classes. The Washington Post leverages instances of driver misuse of the autopilot driver assist feature to suggest that the system is the problem. The article got it wrong. Misreporting what's actually alleged in the pending lawsuit and omitting several important facts. That one, controversy to the Post article, complaint doesn't reference complacency or operational design domain. Apparently my arrow key is in the address bar. And amazingly, it's not showing you the address bar. Like, how does that work? I'm not complaining, I'm just confused. I click out. Whoa. And click back. If I hit escape. Twice. Okay. So this one's got a little bit of the tech from the other system in it as well. So we talked about the complaints. Instead, the complaint acknowledges the harms of driver inattention, misuse, and negligence. Mr. Angelo and the parents of Mrs. Benavides, who tragically died in this crash, first sued the Tesla driver and then settled with him before ever bringing a claim against Tesla. So this is a case of the lawyers just going after all the big buckets. First, they go for the person who actually did it, and then they go for anyone that can get the money they want. The lawsuit alleges that the driver carelessly and or recklessly drove through the intersection, ignoring the controlling stop sign and traffic signal. Lee says, so the weights on the autopilot no longer work. I don't want to say that, but they are harder to work. And what you'll see on the upcoming, when you get the update with the recall in it, if they think that's what you're doing, they may start to cut off your system with that. We'll talk about this in a little bit after this part, but you have 5 strikes, just like as if you had the FSD program, 5 strikes before they turn off your auto steer. That'll suck. I'm just saying. So if you have a car with a camera inside, if the car is doing the steering for you, do not touch the phone. Do not let the car see you do a phone maneuver, because we don't know what's going to happen with that. And you paid too much to lose this. And we'll talk about why and what's going on with that in just a moment, because that all ties nicely into what the Washington Post did. It was boom, 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 boom on the timeline. The Tesla driver didn't blame Tesla, didn't sue Tesla, didn't try to get Tesla to pay on his behalf. He took responsibility for his actions. The Post had the driver statements to the police and reports said that, the reports that he said he was working, reports that, let me look at it on the bigger screen again. The Post had the driver statements to police and reports that so they are reporting that he said he was driving on cruise. They admit that he also admitted to police, I expect to be the driver and be responsible for this. That was a clunky sentence, Tesla. The driver later testified in the litigation that he knew autopilot didn't make the car self-driving and that he was the driver, contrary to the Post and Angelo's claims that he was misled or over-reliant on or over-compliant or complacent. He readily and repeatedly admitted that I was highly aware that it was still my responsibility to operate the vehicle safely. He agreed that it was his responsibility as the driver of the vehicle, even with autopilot activated, to drive safely and be in control of the vehicle at all times. So you might be wondering at this point, why would the guy not do what so many other people do and just try and lie on Tesla? What would happen at that point is Tesla would then probably sue you, and they would ask if you've seen these dialogues that the car pops up. So they have a little picture of the keep your hands on the wheel. They'll have a little picture of the thing that you agreed to. And I don't know that you want somebody like Microsoft or Tesla or Apple suing you for lying on them. Uh, because unless you are one of those 3 companies, you probably won't survive everything they could load to bear at you. So it's best to just tell the truth. I would say specifically, I was aware that the car was my responsibility. I didn't read all of these statements and passages, but I'm aware the car is my responsibility. Yeah, because it's not legal speed that you're scrolling through. So even if you're scrolling through it, you'll see in your plain language what they expect of you. Who's she by buying? She doesn't know how to work a door. The Post also failed to disclose that that autopilot restricted the vehicle's speed to 45 miles per hour, aka the speed limit, based on the road type. But the driver, so this was back when you couldn't go but X speed faster than the speed limit. So in this case, couldn't go faster than the speed limit at all, based on the road type. But the driver was pressing the accelerator to maintain 60 miles per hour when he ran the stop sign and caused the crash. Yeah. So if he had any sort of FSD, it probably would have stopped at the stop sign. Excuse me. But not if his foot was on the pedal. And if he just had auto steer, then it was already going to run through any red, green light. stop sign, etc. So see, he had his foot on the pedal. The car displayed an alert to the driver that because he was overriding autopilot with the accelerator, cruise control will not brake. And mine does this frequently when I want to do that. A little big note at the bottom of the screen: cruise control will not brake. And it'll even have a picture of like you pushing the pedal. More information and background can be found here, and they've got a link to that. Sawyer says, love to see you fighting the FUD. Drive Tesla says, great, clear, informative response. And let's see. Ben says, keep fighting the FUD. Legacy Media purposely spreading disinformation about Tesla. Shocker. Somebody else suggested that it was Jeff, because Jeff, who owns the Washington. Yep, there is. Matthew said that. There was an interview with Lex Friedman, where he was interviewing Jeff, and he's apparently open to them reconciling their differences. So that's pretty cool. All right, so like I said, this one had a multi-partness to it, so we're going to then go to the NHTSA's website. I got an email from them, and as I've said in the past, they make it really hard to get to the direct articles because they go through all these tracking websites, and my computer blocks them. So, find it in the list. 2023 February, December 12th. This is the one they emailed me about. Let's make this bigger. So the recall is, they picked this one because I have a 2018 Model X P100D. Autopilot controls insufficient to prevent misuse. The NHTSA campaign is 23V838 and a bunch of zeros. The manufacturer is Tesla Inc. Components electrical system. Potential number of units affected is 2,031,220. 2,031,220. Now, when you've already probably been texted or emailed about this from family, friends, people who say I told you so. This recall is another software recall. It's not a bring it into the dealer recall. What do we call it? A bring it in recall or a software recall. It's not a bring it in. And we should have another category because just because it's a software recall doesn't mean that you don't got to bring it in, because we saw that with like my aunt has a Jeep plug-in, and she has to bring it into the dealer to update the software so the battery doesn't catch fire. That would be a bring it in software recall. So this is an OTA software recall, and it's going to be included in the holiday update that you get this year. So don't got to worry about it. What was weird to me about this one, and the only reason I even really brought it up beyond the touch I would have done, because I always do these recalls. The touch I would have done had this made sense. Let's dig into this here. Tesla Inc. is recalling 2012 to 2023 Model S. So every Model S. Not to mention the fact that the Model S didn't have auto steer until late 2014. Why are you including all those extra years of cars? Is this because of our friend Jason Hughes, who went and retrofitted his wife's car so that it could do auto steer? And if so, one, that's not something that's Tesla's fault, and two, it wasn't a 2012, so why do you have to go back so far? I don't know. Then it goes to every Model X ever made, 2016 to 2023 Model X. And then every Model 3 ever made at 2017 to 2023 Model 3. And every Model Y ever made at 2020 to 2023. But then they kind of qualified a little bit, kind of cut it down a little bit. I'm not understanding why they said every car, because every car doesn't, particularly those older Model S's, did not come with this. Uh-oh. Have we stopped? Uh-oh. Okay, no, we just had like a stutter or something. I saw these messages on the screen and I'm like, what? Don't want to stop yet. Okay, back to you guys. Sorry. So yeah, so the fact that they included everything, even stuff that didn't qualify, is weird to me. Let's continue. So they kind of tried to qualify it down. All versions of AutoSteer leading up to the versions that contain the recall remedy. In certain circumstances, when autosteer is engaged, the prominence and scope of the feature's controls may not be sufficient to prevent driver misuse of SAE Level 2 Advanced Driver Assistance feature. What does that mean? Some people are going to do stuff like use weights on the steering wheel or all the stuff that Consumer Report showed you on how to defeat the safety systems. And so what they're doing here is, here's the remedy. Tesla will release an over-the-air software update free of charge. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed in February of 2024. Owners may contact Tesla service here. The Tesla number for the recall is Sierra Bravo 2300008. Owners may contact the NHTSA safety hotline at 888-2327-4236. And that goes into the affected products, which is all of them. Then it goes into the associated documents. There's a PDF there. I thought these were interesting because there's a bit of discrepancy even in this. All right, so every car, campaign number, potential units affected, the remedy, the notes. All right, so that's the letter to the government. Let's go close this. The one with the discrepancies is this one, the defect notice. And I don't know if Tesla did this on purpose or what, nor do I understand why it started on page 3. Does it remember I read it before? All right, so it includes every car. Where it gets weird is this. So they tell you the chronology, how they found out about it. Oh, they fixed it. They fixed it. Previously, where they were calling out the cars, they were talking about the Model X, but they called it the Model S. And when they, yeah, they fixed it. Because right here for the Model S, they had the Model S, and then they actually filtered it out to ones that did have it. But, includes certain 2012 2023 Model S that were produced between October. That's every Model S still, and all Model 2016 vehicles. Okay, so they repeated it again. But here it used to actually call out the Model S's that could be equipped with autopilot based on when they were built, and they don't do that anymore. And then here they said 2016 and 2023 Model S, and then they went through and explained the Model X. So never mind on that because they fixed it. Let's continue on with this. So yeah, so if anybody has been forwarding you stuff, is this your car? Are you okay? You worried? The auto steer system isn't going to automatically take over. You still have to turn it on, and it wasn't even a fault with the system. It was a fault with the human. What is that? Okay. Tesla Autopilot recall adds autopilot suspension, may limit auto steer on certain roads, and new alerts. So they've got some photos of some people who got the download. This is the FSD system right here, but the text down here is new. If autopilot disables 5 times due to improper use, auto steer beta and full self-driving beta will no longer operate. This vehicle has had no such events. And then one of the other things they added as part of the recall, but actually was in a previous software update, was you could do the single pull to turn on auto steer, so that you knew auto steer or FSD. This was so that you knew what mode you're in. Apparently, some people were having trouble with the click click or the pull pull or the do do, depending on what car you got. And then this one's got FSD, so you can pick your profile. I don't see anything different about this, but I don't have a non-legacy car to see. This looks like the same as what mine has always said. Apply a slight turning force to the wheel. Get the hands on the wheel. Tesla's response to the NHTSA's directive has led to an update in autopilot system, impacting over 2 million vehicles. Let me make this bigger too so I can read it. with you guys rather than below you guys. You saying my name, huh? What's up, baby? Background. I don't really care about all that right now. I want to tell you what's changed. So in software update 2023.44.30 or higher, the software update is scheduled to roll out shortly, so people are going to get already. Introduce several key features. The update is also expected to include Tesla's much anticipated holiday update, which include various new items such as alternative routes while driving, automatic calls to 911, high fidelity park assist, and more. According to NHTSA, these are the autopilot changes. Additional controls and alerts. Enhanced controls and alerts for auto steer engagement are introduced to ensure that drivers maintain continuous driving responsibility. I wonder if just changing the name would have made it so they didn't have to do this. Because that has always been the contention. You've named it something that people don't understand. Despite the fact that clearly the guy knew what was going on. Visual alert prominence. Visual alerts on the user interface are made more prominent, improving driver awareness and compliance. These new improved alerts can be seen on the photo above, which moves autopilot alerts to the top of the screen instead towards the bottom. Ah, that's what's different. They're at the top where you can see them better. I wonder what they're gonna do in my car, because moving this to the top and legacy cars would block them with the spoke of the wheel, unless you put the yoke in like me, which Tesla could not support because they don't sell the yoke for the car. Da, 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 Simplified auto steer, known as single pull auto steer. This feature made available in a previous update, although it's not available to everyone yet. The goal is to make engagement and disengagement of auto steer more intuitive, and that might be why they don't have a mode where auto steer is on by itself. Previously, if you did a single pull, you'd have cruise control only, and if you did a double pull, you'd have auto steer or FSD or autopilot or nav on autopilot, whatever you had paid for and set up. But if you steered at that point, then you'd have just traffic aware cruise control. If you go to the single pull setting and then you steer, then cruise control drops out as well, which is why so many of us have either not set it up or reverted the setting to the two pulls. All right, Lee, this is what we were talking about here with the weights. Enhanced checks limiting use. The update includes additional checks during the auto steer engagement, especially when driving outside controlled access highways and approaching traffic controls. It's unclear whether Tesla will limit the use of autopilot on certain road types, although the recall document makes it sound like that may be a possibility here. As an owner, we've talked about who has the NHTSA changes specifically said that auto steer was not available at times, although it's not clear whether these were additional limitations or whether the autopilot just didn't have enough information to activate. FSD appears unaffected, and the recall document by NHTSA does not refer to FSD specifically. So in a previous update of FSD, as soon as you shifted out of park, the car would see what weights were already on the wheel. So if your hands were on the wheel or if you had one of those devices, you'd have to add extra weight, extra torque to the wheel to counter that while it was in operation. That's not to say that they've continued to do that on this new update, but that was part of how they did it. All right, so the new part, we've had this for FSD forever, but suspension for autopilot is new. In a move to enforce responsible use, drivers who repeatedly fail to adhere to continuous driving responsibility may face temporary suspension from the auto steer feature. In some images we've received, it appears that Tesla will apply its suspension system that's used on FSD beta to regular auto steer as well. And that's why we're not sure if touching the phone counts as a strike or not. It does on FSD, and the wording supports it being either way. This update reflects Tesla's dedication to addressing safety concerns while pushing the boundaries of AV technologies. By Collaborating with NHTSA and proactively enhancing the autopilot system, Tesla continues to set its standards in automotive safety. As autonomous technology evolves, Tesla's approach is a benchmark for integrating advanced safety features and balancing innovation and driver responsibility. The other thing with this is because Tesla controls all the software, it makes doing such an update like this super easy for them. Whereas other companies, even if they could do it over the air, they would need to get a bunch of different vendors on board to do the update, even if the update was only moving where the messages appeared and doing more checks that the driver was still there. Um, this is one I was going to talk about later, but we'll do it now. Tesla unveils Optimus Robot Gen 2. The Tesla designed fingertips, sensors, actuators, and 10 other improvements, and there's a video. However, there's a Spanish news network that is taking down the YouTube videos. Well, actually, that's not entirely accurate. They are copyright striking or copyright claiming anyone who uses the footage. So I will just show you this photo. Here, the robot takes an egg from the carton and moves it into the other hand, the same fingertips into the other hand, and then places it in this hard-boiled egg maker. So it's got new hands, it's got a new body, it walks better, walks faster, and a whole bunch of improvements. Let's see if they detail them. I had planned to just show you guys the 43-second video until that Spanish news channel decided to blow up YouTube. Uh, Tesla provided a 1 minute, 43-second video update on its new humanoid robot, Optimus Gen 2. Comes a long way since we originally saw the person dressed up in a black and white spandex costume, and even further since the last update in March. Yeah, enhanced functionality. The Gen 2 robot represents a significant evolution from its predecessor. It's 10 kilograms lighter and moves 30% faster. Uh, there, it's also got the light bar from the Model 3, the upcoming Model S and X, the Chinese Model Y mid refresh. It's got the lights and the Cybertruck. So all around the chin is you've got the multicolored light. A key highlight of the Gen 2 is its human-like movement. The robot features new hands and feet equipped with advanced Tesla design sensors and actuators, allowing precise and delicate object manipulation. The upgrade in tactile capability paves the way for the robot's practical application in various tasks. Moving beyond functionality, Gen 2 showcases a Tesla's flair for the design. It had a few body panel upgrades that could be taken straight from a stormtrooper. In the video, Tesla describes enhancements that have been made in the second gen robot. I would have muted the music anyway, but uh, that's different for somebody claiming Tesla's video as their own. It happens with the rocket launches, but since I don't cover most of the rocket launches, that was a new experience for me. I smell a lot of pepper. It's going to be interesting. They've got Tesla designed actuators and sensors. They've got 2 degrees of freedom around the neck, actuators, integrated electronics and harnessing, 30% walking speed boost, foot force and torque sensing, articulated toe sections. So it doesn't have like a digits like we have on the fingers, but it's got like a 3-section foot. Human foot geometry, 10 kilogram weight reduction without sacrifice, improved balance and full body control, faster 11 degrees of freedom, brand new hands, and those hands can move quick. Tactile sensing on all fingers, and delicate object manipulation. Machine that builds the machine. All right, so that was Optimus Gen 2 that we were going to talk about later, but now we don't have to. We'll just say that the auto steer recall, which is autopilot, impacts 193 vehicles in Canada, and that's coming from Drive Tesla Canada. And Tesla release notes detail the remedies. Let's see if they are different from what we just read in this article here before the robot. I don't think they will. Oh no, this is the notes. So this is what Tesla will say on your screen. Improve visibility of driver monitoring warning alerts to touchscreen by increasing the text size and moving the notifications to a more prominent position, Model 3 and Model Y only. I guess they were already there on the new Model S and X. Added the option to activate autopilot features with single stalk depression instead of two to help simplify activation and disengagement. Now, if you had a yoke class wheel, it was already there. You could push the wheel in once or twice. Everybody else with stocks, they finally get that option. And some of us have already had it for a little bit. I had it and never used it because of the disengagement thing. And if you didn't already have it, now you will also have it. Increase the strictness of driver attentiveness requirements when using auto steer and approaching traffic lights, stops and stops. And stop signs off of highway. That's awkward. It introduced a suspension policy which will restrict auto steer usage for 1 week if improper usage is detected. Improper usage is when you or another driver of your vehicle receive 5 forced autopilot disengagements. So, you get the beep, 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 take over now, and it says autopilot is disengaged for the rest of the drive. If you get 5 of them, you get suspended for a week. After a week, it'll reset and you can try again. Good luck. Just do the right thing. You are the driver. As the driver, you must be vigilant to the road, keep your hands on the wheel, and be ready to intervene to maintain safety. Talking about autopilot suspension. For maximum safety and accountability, autopilot features will be suspended if improper usage is detected. Improper usage is when you or another driver of your vehicle receive. Did they repeat themselves? Or did I read it twice? Oh, I think it's just more detail. A disengagement is when the autopilot system disengages for the remainder of the trip after the driver receives several audio and visual warnings for inattentiveness, or instant ones for picking up your phone. Driver-initiated disengagements do not count as improper usage, so if you've turned it off, it doesn't count, and are expected from the driver. Keep your hands on the wheel and remain attentive at all times. Use of any handheld devices while using autopilot is not allowed. So they don't even care if it's a phone anymore. If there's anything in your hand, you're looking at it. Nope. Autopilot features can only be removed per the suspension. Autopilot features can only be removed for the suspension method, and they'll be unavailable for approximately 1 week. So it could be longer. And then they talk about the rest of the stuff they added in there, and it'll be fun. The cabin camera above your rearview mirror can now determine driver inattentiveness and provide you with audible alerts to remind you to keep your eyes on the road when autopilot is engaged. Camera images do not leave the vehicle itself, which means the system cannot save or transmit information unless you enable data sharing. To change your settings, go to tap Controls, Software, Data Sharing on your car's touchscreen. There you go. Why is recall in quotes in this article? It is in fact an HTSA recall, no quotes needed. The fact it's addressed over OTA is relevant. It's still a recall. Yeah, we need to work with them on changing the classifications. If autopilot is activated with a single press, then how will simple traffic-aware cruise control be activated? You can't. There you go. If I get suspended while I'm subscribing to FSD, if I get suspended, I'm subscribing to FSD. I hate driving, and autopilot is too good. Also, for most of us that have autopilot rolled into the price, yeah. So you're gonna give them $200 for the month where you're still gonna be suspended when you switch over. They didn't say that changing it makes it any different. And we already have the suspension policy on FSD. Let's move on. We've got more to cover. This one is fun to me because BMW is kind of making fun of what Lexus did the other day. BMW tech boss isn't into fake gearboxes in EVs. Oop. BMW CTO Frank Weber told us that simulated transmissions aren't a priority for the brand. Phony engine noises are non-starter. So Lexus and Audi. uh, Car makers are copying the most entertaining elements of conventional cars and pasting them into their electric models, but BMW says this isn't that it isn't at all interested in putting artificial transmissions or phony engine growls into its future EVs. And not interested doesn't mean they won't do it. It just means that they're not looking into making it happen. At a roundtable with journalists, we asked Frank Weber's BMW CTO whether his engineers are working on simulated gearboxes for electric cars. Hyundai, Toyota, and others are experimenting with this kind of mimicry, something that isn't strictly necessary in an EV, but could help jazz up the driving experience. Weber laughed off the idea. You can maybe emulate a stick, also a digital stick, he joked. BMW's tech boss added that the company has bigger fish to fry when it comes to the driving experience in its next generation EVs. BMW wants to harness the advantages of EV technology by developing systems that control a vehicle's wheels, motors, and chassis at once, he said. That's the priority. So emulate that. You have fixed gears and you shift them. Probably we can do in the afternoon after we're done with the other things. So same way that some people say, oh, Tesla was busy working on fart sounds when they could have been making my wipers work better. He's saying, hey, we've got priorities and we're going to work on them first. You'll be surprised how different vehicles drive when you see the next generation. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Let's see what these comments are real quick. Oh, I went down from a 2 to a 1. I don't think they should build EVs at all. Well, forget you. At least in some sense, the next thing will be fake CO2 emissions for the right feel. Maybe a lead infusion for the proper classic and shutters at high altitudes. Just bring back stuff you don't need. So this one I called out in the notes, a use case for hydrogen that doesn't always instantly lose to EVs or combustion. So let's take a look at why I thought hydrogen could work sometimes in some places. GM and Komatsu developed hydrogen fuel cells for a gigantic electric mining truck. So here, the reason I thought this might be okay is, well, you're finding more and more electric mining equipment. Some of these mines are so far off the grid that it may be easier just to truck in a bunch of bottles of hydrogen than it will be to electrify the site, especially if electrifying the site means diesel generators, for instance. Or what they could do, assuming they don't have space to lay out a bunch of temporary solar panels, is do a hydrogen fuel cell generator for the site and then just do regular EVs for all the equipment. But either way, that's what GM and Komatsu are doing, and I said it wasn't entirely stupid, but it still doesn't work out for road vehicles. Where did I say? Did I call it out? I might have called it out in the comments. Nope, I didn't call it out in the comments on this one. So basically, what I was getting at there was I think that, except for in the cases where this math's out, you've got vehicles like airplanes and ships. And the ships, I don't think most of them will need it either, because we've got kites. They attach to a hard point on the ship. Some of them are automated, some of them are not. We've got kites that can add to the propulsion of the ship. And then we've got rigid sails that can be deployed from deployable masts, like an airplane wing, rather than the fabric sails. And those can be more compatible with container ships and oil rigs and that sort of thing. So the need for hydrogen on a ship is lessened when you can just use the wind and solar. The oil tankers especially can use solar because it's not like you're going to be stacking containers on top of them. So that was all I had to do with hydrogen. I'm done with them. This one was cool, talking about the average new price of automobiles have fallen. Whoops. I push all the right buttons. The average new vehicle transaction price is falling again year over year. incentives and discounting spurs sales of electric and luxury models in November. Let me check and see if I'm not missing any chats from anywhere else. Oh, good. Introducing a more positive trend for consumers, released by Kelley Blue Book, shows that in November was the third consecutive month in which the new average vehicle transaction prices went lower year over year. KBB said that the past 3 months marked the only time in the past decade that the monthly new vehicle average prices did not increase year over year. The new average price is up to 48,247, but that reflects an increase of less than 1% month over month basis. For electric vehicles, the prices rose slightly in November to 52,345 from a revised 51,715 in October. So if you can find those $30,000 and $40,000 EVs, you're beating out the gas cars and the average EV prices. Moving on, Tesla Megapack. Congratulations to the Megapack team on 12 gigawatt hours of operating industrial storage at 99% availability. Rivian. Let's look at their finally fixed tonneau cover. The next thing I need to do is change the audio to virtual cable. That's what my notes say, virtual cable. Sound as virtual cable. Okay, so you should be able to hear this now. If I have my settings set up so the monitors go to the right place. Global settings. Monitor is my speakers here. Okay. So anyway, so there is the new Rivian tonneau cover. It goes ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Just like it used to, but not as bad. It says you guys can hear it. Let me unmute this. I can't hear it, but it says you guys can hear it. Anyway, so there. Okay. Moving on. Now that Rivian's finally got that fixed, if you've been waiting, there you go. And I guess now they just, once they get the retrofits done, they should probably start offering the feature again. So the magnet cover they've been offering. Tesla Giga Shanghai hits a new production record in November. From January to November, they sold 8.3 million NEVs. Oh, new energy vehicles, up from 36.7% a year ago. I don't care about all of China. I want to tell you about the record. Giga Shanghai sold 82,432 Model 3s and Ys in November. That was down 18% from a year ago when it sold more than 100,000 units for the first time, but more than in September and October this year. A remarkable fact was the factory achieved a new production record. According to data collected by Pilali, in November, Giga Shanghai produced 90,800 electric vehicles, more than ever before. This equates to approximately 3,026 vehicles per day, or approximately 1.09 million vehicles per year. This figure also indicates that Tesla can already produce more vehicles per year than in its Q3 2023 report, where it put the capacity at 950,000. She's got a lot of garlic going on. I don't know what she's making in there. Continuing on. The Honda E is DEAD. The Honda E has been discontinued. What is the Honda E? It was only really sold in Japan and Europe. It was this cute little car, little like this. It had camera mirrors and a digital dash. And the comments weren't very nice to it. It's quite a high price for not a lot of car. I can see why it never took off. Made it for 25,000, and Honda would have had a hit. Shame because it was a very nice looking little car. Good little car. Sad to see them go. Put the Civic 2.0 turbo into the hood. Sales will take off. Actually, for those gassers, it certainly would. Today on Auto News, this model was dropped, and F-150 Lightning production has been cut, along with a hitting reality hitting test on new fronts. I'm not into AVs, so this reality is a recall. But this is a petrolhead channel, so let's continue on. CarMax did something interesting. Paste and go. I'm surprised that button didn't work. I guess I had to have 5 first. Anyway, CarMax is now offering a electric semi-truck as a car hauler. Used car retailer CarMax has it looks like the e-Cascadia that they're using there. That's a Freightliner. CarMax is leasing a Freightliner e-Cascadia from the Penske Truck Leasing, and is the first to be leased by Penske Truck Leasing as a car hauler. The e-Cascadia comes in 315 or 475 kilowatt-hour configurations and has up to 250 miles of range while carrying approximately a 65,000-pound gross vehicle weight. So it's not really a competitor for the Tesla Semi. It's more of like a mid-range hauler. Not even really mid-range, kind of a regional hauler, if you will. The Pilot electric semi, which is being used in real-world conditions, can transport up to 7 vehicles at a time and has a range of around 230 miles. A DC fast charger has been installed at CarMax's Stockton, California store, and CarMax has set a goal to achieve a 50% reduction in emissions by 2025 based on a 2018 baseline. Uh, Electrek says the irony isn't lost on me that an electric semi-truck is now being used to carry what is probably mostly gas cars, but any move to electric is a good move. Seeing CarMax use the Freightliner e-Cascadia will hopefully inspire more consumers and retailers to switch to electric. Like the solar panels that help power oil rigs, if renewables did not power them, fossil fuel power would be used to mine for more fossil fuel power. So it is an improvement despite the irony. Once fossil is phased out, renewables can still continue providing power, but for more renewables. Congratulations to CarMax on a step in the right direction. All right, so we've got editorial on the F-150 Lightning pullback from Inside EVs. Let's see what they say. Right sizing production to balance with supply and demand is a new equation for every company. The whole transition for EVs is a mystery. So they are just kind of repeating what the company says. All right, we've got an X post here. This X post says, spinning. Captain on the post says they slid off the trail. I will say the Cybertruck looks good out there in snow and hauling that Christmas tree. So this is a Instagram post that's been going wild. Things to point out about this is that this release candidate for some reason did not have the recovery hooks or the software to engage the differentials. Some things that were pointed out is that they messed up by sliding off the trail for one, not airing down the tires, and having non-snow tires on the truck. We're not sure if these are the mud tires, the all-terrain tires, or if they are the street tires. Uh, in this video, they look a little smooth, so they could be the street tires for all we know, rather than the ones that were equipped on the vehicle sold to date. More info on Cybertruck stuck on a snowy hill. The lockers did work. Really? I think it did not work, is what they meant. Cybertruck wasn't their only recovery that day. Missing recovery points and wrong tires. Jeep Gladiators Only Facebook says, figured y'all would enjoy this. Posting purely for entertainment, not brand bashing. Saturday, my group got held up almost 2 hours by a solo forerunner that hit a tree and slid into another tree and then buried himself. So that was 3 recoveries in a row. Sunday, my buddy's group was held up by a Cybertruck, and he sent me these videos. I was not there. Software issue which caused the rear brakes not to act like lockers. I'm not sure what the person means by that because that's not how it works. You don't use the brakes for lockers. You use the brakes for traction control. Lockers physically lock the two wheels at one speed together rather than letting them have a differential where they can spin separately. Wrong tires, not air down, prototype model, so it had no recovery or pickup. Well, some of the prototypes, like that one, didn't have it on there for some reason, but there were others that did have it on there. So they roped it around the suspension rather than roping it around where it should have been roped. Don't go places without being prepared, and definitely don't go solo unprepared with a little kid. That was the Forerunner. Enjoy. And so they were. I haven't seen this one yet, and I can't hear any of it. I'm sorry. I'll have to come back to that. I didn't see this video. And anyone who says that F-150 is wrong is F-250 or F-350. And there it goes. Break this down, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Real quick, I'm getting beeps. Do they matter? Dan was asking a question. And then right after that, we had another case of having the wrong tires attached to your car for conditions. This one was with a Ford Lightning.
How far off am I on the track?
I think that's my fault that I can't hear them.
It's actually pretty cool. It tells me how far the wheels.
Properties. It says monitor and output.
I just keep doing that and turn it.
It says it's playing for you guys, and I heard it on the channel.
There you go.
The monitor should be these.
How far off am I on the track? It's actually pretty cool. It tells me how far the
Set them back there. And then this one.
I just keep doing that and turn it.
And then it's still not working.
There you go.
So it's not selected, but it clearly is using it. Settings. Yeah.
How far off am I on the track?
I'll figure out the sound routing later. Sound routing has always been a pain in the butt.
It's actually pretty cool. It tells me.
All right, so then next on the list we've got some Cybertruck crash tests. People are saying, oh, it can't be safe, even though they've seen the pictures. Oh, it's not going to crumple, blah, blah, blah. It'll be fine. Here we see a post from Cybertruck themselves. It's not about the size of your crumple zone, it's about how you use it. When in a high-speed collision, the Cybertruck's front underbody casting is designed to break into small pieces. This helps reduce occupant impact by absorbing and dispensing energy. So this one is more like the ones we saw of the non-Cybertrucks that people were trying to compare it to when Cybertruck did the straight into a flat wall situation. So we can tell it's absorb impact, small offset, or small overlap. Either way, we've got just a sliver of the truck hitting a barrier, small offset, rigid barrier, absorb. Yeah. Because the wheel gets shorn off the vehicle rather than pushing further into the door or the cabin. can see the wheel gets ripped right off. So that's actually by design. And if you look at the interviews with Sandy Monroe, they show you how the thing's kind of like got a wavy shape to manage the energy of a crash. At least as they heard the sound. Good. So I got to figure out why I can't hear the sound. It's especially important if it's something that's got music, because I could end up hurting myself on here without even hearing it. All this shows is just autopilot, a death trap. You can't even recognize a wall right in front of it. Tesla Q. That's a joke. The people wanted a safe truck. Tesla delivered. I prefer trucks that don't crash. I'm canceling my reservation immediately. Also another joke. Wait, are there comments from all of our fresh safety experts? I'll drive it till the wheels fall off. This is a great crumple zone performance here. It looks like the underbody can crumple more than the full frontal crash video showed. Yeah, this is a company that prided themselves on how they aced every subcategory of a crash test. Why would they forget 20 years of work just because they have a pickup truck? They wouldn't. Engineering marvel. Everyone happy that the rear axle didn't snap. And I pointed out that it didn't snap in the other video either. Now the front in this video looks like it did. This is a sorb test, small offset rigid barrier. Test the way that it went back and then the wheel came off versus inside the cabin or up the door skin. The rear wheels steer just like the fronts with less allowed turning action. Brian says, exactly. The low IQ anecdotal comments stating otherwise were cute. Cute? I would say they were annoying. If the cabin doesn't crumple, then what kills you is deceleration. What? You just saw it crumple right there in the video. You go from 50 to 0. The more distance you have to slow down, the less deceleration. Like the crumple zone actually matters. And they showed it. This person's asking what this is. This is part of the testing requirement. Just the rigid barrier. It's an aluminum box. I said whatever barrier structure is required by this testing standards procedures, same as all other vehicles going through the same testing regimen. This is an official third-party independent test. I actually replied to this one too and said no, it's at the Tesla facility. James asks about how the airbag timing is optimized. I pointed out they did a video like that with the Model Y versus Silverado. We covered it here on this program. This is at 30 miles an hour, so bad. We don't know what speed it was at because Tesla's at higher speed. Look at the back wheels. That's safety. Look how they trail along nicely like every other vehicle that does in this test. Or are you referring to the solid ball test where the steerable rear wheel steers a bit when colliding with the wall at 30 miles per hour or more? Tyler says if the rear doors won't open, can emergency crews extract you quickly through bulletproof glass? I pointed out that they never claimed the bulletproof glass from the unveil through today. Tyler says, yeah, it's armor glass, much tougher than standard automotive glass. Which is not wrong, but I said correct. But as the ball test showed, and as Zach likes to point out from Zach's Jerry Rig, glass is glass and glass breaks. I'd keep a glass breaker and seatbelt cutter in the truck to be safe. I believe Zach has sold them in the past or has one as a sponsor. He says, I have one of those, but no way they make it through Cybertruck glass. And I said, well, there's one way to find out, but I don't have the part number for any Cybertruck parts right now because the Cybertruck parts came out after I made this post, and I don't know if they're currently VIN restricted. It wouldn't be the first time I've bought a window for a video. And those of you who remember the test box series, I did buy a used automotive window to try and use the glass breaker, and it didn't work because it wasn't really a glass breaker that they gave us. They gave us kind of a poker, but it didn't have the right tip to break glass. And I couldn't find my glass breaker to just break it and get rid of the window. Lol, this is clearly in response to the other clip where you can see the truck coming to a dead stop with the rear wheel buckling when it hits the frame. They have stuck a white step in to make the deceleration seem more gradual and less abrupt. I point out this is a different test, similar to the ones spliced in with the immovable object test of the Cybertruck. The rear wheel steer, so it isn't buckling or snapping. how about posting the entire video rather than just a 2-second clip? I don't know what he's talking about because that was the entire video. It's a crash test. They don't last very long. And then Gas Off is saying that it was fun to watch the airbags deploy. I'm tired of people who think the Cybertruck has to have a crumple zone. Do people think that Tesla, the company that makes the safest cars that you can buy, forgot about safety when designing the Cybertruck? Timmy points out, all those people claiming the Cybertruck is dangerous for our roads have no clue. The car they're driving is probably much less safe. And sorry, this is a video presented for the VW ID4. It's the pedestrian and the bicyclist. ID2 it's the bicyclist. There it is again. Mercedes C-Class, it's the pedestrian. Vehicle. Polestar 2, it's the pedestrian at night. Ooh. BMW i4 hits the bicyclist. Clips the bicyclist, I should say. BMW 2 Series, it's pedestrian. And the bicyclist. Polo, bicyclist. Ford Mustang Mach-E hits the bicyclist. Volvo C40 Recharge hits the pedestrian. Mercedes EQS hits the pedestrian. VW ID5 flips the bicycle. MG4 hits the pedestrian. And the bicycle. Hyundai Ioniq 6 hits the bicycle. Neo ET7 hits the pedestrian. Lucid Air hits the pedestrian. And the bicyclist. Mercedes EQE and BYD Auto. Bicyclist and pedestrian. Cooper Born clips a bicycle. Oro Funky Cat hits the bicyclist. Kia Niro clips the bicycle. Tesla Model Y, night and day, stops for the pedestrian. Tesla Model Y, it's really close to the pedestrian, doesn't hit him. Again, Tesla Model Y, stops for the pedestrian. Stops for the pedestrian. Stops for the bicycle. Stops for the bicycle. Really close. Stops for the bicycle. And the scores. So, well, that's not all of them apparently. Model Y, car to car, stops. Car to car, stops. Cross traffic, stops. Lane departure, it corrects itself. Lane departure with no lines, corrects itself. Blind spot, keeps control. There we go. Is that all of them? That's all. So that means I don't need to find that one anymore because we already got it. So we've got another X post here. Paste and go. Good. Breaking! Tesla has officially obtained the permits to start construction at Giga Mexico plant. They are saying that construction could start in the next few weeks, but it's up to Tesla to decide. Neato. And so I don't think I have it in the show, but Ford responded to this. GM says safety is a reason it's dropping CarPlay and Android Auto. And Ford disagrees. They are keeping it in there because it keeps people off of their phones, handheld. Same thing that Tesla said, but they didn't say about this because they don't have it, but the same thing they said, keep the handheld phone off. And so Right. Yeah. Safety is why we are disabling the hands-free system. That makes sense. So then we've got Green Power has rolled out the first electric school buses in West Virginia. Now, you might be saying, Casey, you've talked about Green Power electric school buses before. Yes, I have. However, what's new about this is that they are coming from the West Virginia plant. So congratulations to them for getting that up and running and rolling them out. They've got 4 Type A Nano Beast school buses are rolling out of the Kanawha County factory tomorrow on December 13th. As you can see, this is the 17th, so it's already happened. They have a 150 kilowatt max electric motor and lithium iron phosphate battery with a capacity of 118 kilowatt hours. Green Power says it's the only purpose-built Type A electric school bus on the market and can seat 24 people, has a range of 150 miles, and the option for wheelchair securements and a Braun Ability rear curbside lift. Congratulations to them. And then we've got a little bit of EPA data says that the Rivians are more efficient than Cybertrucks, according to Electric Co. And they did a little face-off in a chart. So let's go look at their chart real quick. So they're saying at 50 and 70 miles per hour, some of the Rivians are more efficient than some of the Cybertrucks. Why did I phrase it that way? Because it depends on which ones you're comparing. They kind of fight about it. And then you've got the Ford Lightning, Chevy Silverado, and the Hummer EV. So take of that what you will. Copy link, paste and go. So these ones, I don't normally cover all of the ups and downs of what Tesla's up to with their pricing, but as we approach the end of the year, uh, that becomes more important. Starting today, Cybertruck reservation holders will have to pay $1,000. Oh, this one isn't even what I thought I was talking about. Starting today, Cybertruck reservation holders will have to pay a $1,000 early access deposit to convert existing reservations into orders. It'll be credited to your final purchase price upon delivery. So, for those of you who have purchased Teslas long ago, like me, uh, this isn't new. It's the amount is new, and what they call it is new. But when it came to purchasing my Model X, they had a $5,000 order fee, which once you picked up your car, that was credited into the money received. And when I was first trying to save up for a Model S, when they canceled the Model S40 on me, the day before I was ready for it, they I think it was like a $10,000 or $15,000 order fee you had to have ready to go. Dan says, again, that's way more mileage than a bus needs on average. Well, the 140-mile range could last up to 4 days, probably. Yes, Dan, but there are other Mega Beast, Ultra Beast, whatever they call it, the one with 300 and some odd mile range. That one will be necessary for some of the field trips that are available, because that gives you 150 miles out and 150 miles back. Now, you won't need all of your buses to have that by any means, but it does offer some flexibility. You can do certain routes. You can do rural. You don't have to worry about are my children going to be stranded, and you don't have to worry about the effects of low tires. I mean, you do have to worry about low tires. But you don't have to worry about them as much. What they do is the range and the effects of the cold. But do you need a 300-mile bus for every bus? Heck no. Do you need a 300-mile bus in the fleet? You probably need about 10 in the fleet, depending on how big your zone is. Assuming that you use your school buses for field trips at all. Because if you don't use them for field trips, then that's probably overkill all year round, unless it's like all rural routes. All right. Yeah. So you'll have to give them $1,000 to complete your order before they start to do the machinations to get a truck to you. And so yeah, when you complete your configuration, not because they've emailed you. And then we talked about Optimus, and then I put a big note on myself to worry about that television company. I've got their name here, but I'm not going to name them. Give them a free advertisement for being jerks. This one is also going to be from Sawyer. Apparently, I didn't copy it well because it didn't let me paste it. Dan says true. Now, if I had that field trip destination, a good J Nezzy, it's still good. Yeah. So being able to charge on the JNAX at 350 kilowatts would be great. But if that would be a good example of a vehicle that could use the 3-phase charging, they probably have available 3-phase charging at the bus depot, and they could charge at 50 kilowatts AC with the Type 2 connector. But then you would have to have two ports. You'd need an AC port and you would need a DC port. So why not just do JNAX and call it a day? Just got this email from Tesla. Order Tesla Solar from Tesla at the lowest price in the US, guaranteed. Generate and store your own energy. Order solar from Tesla at the lowest price in the US, guaranteed. Pair with Powerwalls to store excess solar energy to use even when the sun isn't shining, and reducing your energy costs and reliance on the grid. If you find solar for less somewhere else, we'll match it. Asterisk. So, what's kind of cool about this is if you have a Powerwall in your system, you can use Tesla PowerShare on PowerShare equipped vehicles, which is currently only the Cybertruck. But that price match and everything is kind of new. They haven't done this in a while. So even though they are repeatedly opening and shutting down this department, they are making another go at it. Is this the breaking you were talking about earlier? I never did find what he was talking about earlier. He does a lot of breaking news. This one was the one I was thinking I was talking about, and it's very important. It's not just Tesla, but so Tesla, Ford, and a couple others. But the ones I was specifically talking about are uh, the Model 3 long range and rear wheel drive, but not performance, are going to lose their tax credit at the end of the year. January 31st. December 31st at 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds, you will no longer be able to qualify a Model 3 rear wheel drive or a Model 3 long range for the tax credit. And the same goes for the Mustang Mach-E, will lose its tax credit as well. I don't know if it's going to lose the entire credit or half of it, because the same way that Tesla was like in flux all last week, so was the Mach-E. So if you want a Mach-E or a Model 3 with the full credit, do them before the end of the year if it's in your budget and if everything is lined up for it, if it's something you were already going to do. Do not drag your feet on this. You will have a bad day. Although, if a partial credit on the cars that will still qualify for the partial credit are something you're interested in, or if the vehicle you want will still qualify for the full credit, if you wait till next year and you're sure, 100% sure, what will happen is the credit will change to a point of sale credit, and you'll be able to collect it as a discount on the car. Or if you already paid for the car, they'll owe you $7,500 right there on the spot, assuming that you qualify, which is pretty cool. So Tesla's changed their website to state this, and that doesn't mean that Tesla or others won't either get different batteries or reduce the price of the car or anything like that, but you cannot count on any of those things happening, or at least count on them happening by the time you're ready to make your purchase. And another thing that happens when model years change with every manufacturer is they change the prices, usually upwards. So it doesn't usually happen with the calendar year, but Tesla is still selling 23s. So if they do 24s with the new year, then that also could be a price increase on top. So also, if you are interested in a Tesla, you can use my referral code in the link below. I'd appreciate it, and you will get perks from it as well. Currently 6 months of supercharging and 3 months of FSD, I believe, something like that. They'll tell you what you get when you go to the link. It's ts.la/KACEY1109. And then for the rest of that on your phone, you just order it up. I say your phone, you could do it on the PC too. This one was kind of cool. It wasn't really that big a deal, but I liked it. BWH, Best Western Hotels, has announced a collaboration with Tesla to bring electric vehicle charging stations to properties throughout North America. Why is it not that big a deal? Because it's just one group. Beginning in 2024, Best Western Hotels will begin installing universal wall connectors at selected hotels across North America. With the recent launch of Tesla Universal Wall Connector, the charging stations will be designed to seamlessly charge any North American vehicle, expanding Tesla's efforts to make a great charging experience available to all EVs. That's all I need to say about that. Right, this one was fun. Fun as in confusing. This X post, Elon is replying to uh, Mike Benz, who says important development on how the Biden executive branch is targeting Elon Musk properties from every angle. This time, the FCC is revoking a nearly $1 billion grant from 2020 to Starlink, creating a brand new impossible standard that applies only to Starlink. Revoke a 2020 award of $885 million to Musk Starlink. First, the FCC revokes the reward by making up an entirely new state it ever pass, and then applying the novel standard to only one entity, Starlink. Instead of applying the traditional FCC standard to the record evidence, which would have compelled the agency to confirm Starlink's $885 million award, denied on grounds that. Dan says on the better side, in 2 years, it will qualify for 4K used car credit as well as 2021 and older when the program starts in 2023. Yes, it should. This is a dissenting statement from Commissioner Brendan Carr, who's really riled up about what happened here. Last year, after Musk acquired Twitter, President Biden gave federal agencies the green light to go after him. I'm not sure how to take that political thing, but just sticking to the Starlink part, Musk says it doesn't make sense. Starlink is the only company actually solving rural broadband at scale. We've got another post about that coming up in a moment. They should arguably dissolve the program and return the funds to the taxpayers, but definitely not send it to those who aren't getting the job done. What actually happened is the companies that lobbied for this massive earmark, not us, thought they would win, but instead were outperformed by Starlink, so now they're changing the rules to prevent SpaceX from competing. Chris says, I now have rural broadband thanks to Starlink. My neighbors and I called and begged the ISPs to install any internet in my neighborhood for almost 4 years before Starlink was available, and they wouldn't do it. So he got Starlink. For anybody reading the flies, I want you to know Starlink can now be purchased at Best Buy. And let's continue on because there's more to this story than that first presentation. Not a lot more, but there's more. News: the FCC has upheld its 2022 decision to deny SpaceX an $885 million subsidy for rural broadband expansion. So stupid. So then there's a Drive Tesla Canada post. I guess I can just click it. But rather than click it, I'm going to drag it. Can I do that? Yeah, I can, even though it drags a picture. All right. FCC chair, led by Jessica Rosenworcel, stated that the Starlink had failed to meet basic program requirements and couldn't demonstrate its ability to deliver the promised service. Nor could anybody else. The initial allocation of $885 million to Starlink in 2020 was contingent upon the company's bid regarding connectivity, cost, and coverage in rural America. However, the FCC highlighted numerous financial and technical deficiencies in Starlink's proposal, including its reliance on developing technology that required users to purchase a $600 dish. Starlink appealed this decision, citing plans for satellite expansion and the promise of SpaceX's Starship rocket, which isn't quite there yet. Still, the FCC, in a 3-2 decision, maintained that Starlink had not proven its capability to fulfill the RDOF's requirements, deploying a network across 642,925 locations in 35 states. They did that. They're coming beaming down from space. They got you there. The dissenting commissioners, Brendan Carr and Nathan Symington, argued against the decision. Symington acknowledged that while the RDOF recipients provided no service, while some RDOF, so I guess some people did get the money, RDF recipients provided no service, Starlink was serving 500,000 customers, including areas with limited broadband options, and Carr suggested that the political motivations behind the denial, linking it to Musk's activity on X, and the Biden administration's stance on Musk. I don't know about that part, but it's possible. SpaceX contested the decision, asserting that it undermined the RDOF's goal of connecting underserved Americans, like Chris was saying about his local options. They just weren't happening. So the only people who did it was Starlink. SpaceX pointed out that Starlink's success in providing broadband to millions of subscribers, particularly in areas neglected by other providers. The FCC has stood by its findings, citing Starlink's failure to address detailed inquiries and uncertainties about reaching the required internet speeds. I mean, are they perfect? No, they're not. But is that better than what's out there? Heck yes. But that's not all. Let's continue. Paste. I think it's been trending in the past couple of days because the FCC canceled the $800 million it was going to give the company for rural broadband. I thought I'd bring up some notes. Here's the things you need to know. Starlink is not as good as wired internet. The FCC has good technical reasons for not liking it, but it's damn close. Close enough that we have to question whether the FCC is being reasonable. The FCC is already horribly politicized and unreasonable without Starlink in the picture. Oh, yes. Thanks, Mr. Pie. The government has been trying to subsidize broadband since forever. For example, back in 1992, the argument was subsidizing ISDN at 128 kilobits instead of the slow 14.4 that was common by then in rural America. I have rural property outside DSL range, within commute distance to Intel's headquarters. I've been waiting 20 years for the FCC to fulfill its mandate of providing wired or fiber to my property. The reality is this isn't going to happen in my lifetime. The biggest reason that the FCC wants the highest speed is that the FCC wants the highest speed possible. There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to have something and improve on it. It'd rather fund one household getting 100 megabits from fiber than 10 households getting 10 megabits. It's pretty random which customers get the subsidies. There's no real way for a rural customer to influence the process, such as agreeing to pay more, to happily pay $10,000 to get 100 megabits wire installed in my place. It then more than pay for itself from some rich Intel engineer wanting to buy the property to commute from, where the only sticking point is lack of internet. Thus, the chances of my property ever getting wired internet is essentially nil. The FCC hands out money to the politically connected and those who know how to work the system, and that's not me. With some effort, I could probably figure it out, set up a coop, and apply for the funds. It'd work, but I have to spend basically a year of my life doing it, unless I get lucky and some Intel engineer buys nearby property with experiencing in ISPs. It's not going to happen. But Starlink did happen. I've been an ecstatic customer for 3 years now. The fact that Starlink exists and provides good internet service to my property has probably doubled its market value. Previous satellite internet wasn't an option. My grandmother had previous satellite internet on her farm. It was atrocious. It had a decent download speed, but the one that she had two versions. One was it would send back the requests via dial-up. That wasn't so terrible. But then after her house got hit by lightning for like the 5th time, it fried the modem yet again, and so what they switched to was one where the requests and everything were sent over the satellite. So you had to wait for everything to get up there to geostationary orbit. Then you had to wait for it to come back down, and then get service, then go back up, and then come back down. It was bad. We had DSL and cable throughout all of this, and then school had at least multiple ISDN lines, and they worked their way up to regional Ethernet, and yeah, the folks on rural broadband were getting the short end of the stick. So anyway, wasn't really an option. It worked, but the latency and bandwidth restrictions were so bad that you couldn't call it internet. For example, you couldn't use Netflix with it. You definitely couldn't play online games and even slow Twitch games. But with Starlink, all those problems with traditional satellite go away. The latency gets reduced to only slightly worse than wired. You can now use Netflix, Amazon Prime, and YouTube with reckless abandon, and for most users, they wouldn't even notice a difference. I have an AT&T microcell that runs through Starlink because mobile service is so bad at the property. It just runs as good as a normal cell service. It's amazing how well it works, given the unreliability of server before Starlink. With all this said, there are problems. Despite latency being low, it's highly variable with the same bandwidth. Starlink satellites are whizzing by overhead are only visible for a few minutes at a time, so the ground station dish is constantly shifting from one satellite to another. Even if you are on the same satellite for a bit, congestion is constantly changing as suddenly a bunch of other users are suddenly transferred to your dish. Yes. One consequence is that suddenly video, FaceTime, Zoom, Netflix shifts to a low blocky resolution for a minute, and it can happen on Comcast too, but it's very rare. It happens several times a day on Starlink, sometimes, depending on your location, several times an hour. Another consequence is the fastest of fast twitch games, where even a small blip in latency can cause you to lose the match. I don't even play those sorts of games, so I don't care. I do play, on the other hand, internet games that aren't quite so sensitive, which are unplayable on traditional satellite. I don't notice any problem with them. I can't see Starlink ever improving this. I think I can personally, but it's gonna be a little while. You got the V2 dishes, and you're gonna need more of them. And that's probably why the FCC canceled the 800 million. A wired provider can guarantee that 90% of the time the bandwidth will be above 100 megabits and latency below 50 milliseconds, reliable for fast twitch games. Starlink can only guarantee that 50% of the time. But Starlink is here and for almost every rural users. It's done far more for the rural broadband than all of the FCC spending on the problem put together. It costs less to create than the $20 billion that the FCC has allocated for rural broadband subsidies, and many times more customers. Given that Starlink is here and the reach of the almost all rural customers, the FCC needs to shut down its current rural initiative, meaning make no new grants, but of course live up to existing promises and reevaluate its role in the matter. But of course, they won't do that and will instead keep investing billions in fiber to nowhere, FCC, bureaucracy, and loves such waste. The point of this post is simply to say that I'm not sure it's Biden's hostility towards Musk so much as the government bureaucrats holding hostile free enterprise that are busy solving problems without government direction. I've been watching this process for 30 years, and it's been a constant boondoggle from the very beginning. And I'm still not going to get wired internet to my property no matter how many dollars the FCC wastes on the problem. While Musk is an idiot managing Twitter, I still thank God for Starlink. So, as this person points out, it's probably a lack of focus and direction that's causing this rather than anything against Starlink. Starlink does have some issues, but it's better than nothing. Dan points out that Starlink is also providing service-verified relief organizations in Palestine. That's pretty cool. All right, so after Starlink and the FCC, let's talk about some more Starlink and the FCC. But let's change the tone of the story, huh? But not the same story. It's a different story. Same two players. FCC has decided to allow SpaceX to test Starlink cell phone service. So the Starlink Direct to Cell that they talked about with T-Mobile, last year, year before, is now got permission to have a temporary authorization. It was issued on Thursday and allows SpaceX to conduct tests over a 6-month period beginning June 14th in more than 24 locations across the United States. SpaceX's testing will focus on connecting unmodified T-Mobile cell phones using satellite connectivity. This development follows a week after FCC's initial partial approval, which permitted SpaceX to deploy satellites equipped for cellular connectivity. However, the initial approval restricted SpaceX to only brief antenna functionality tests. This new authorization significantly expands SpaceX's testing capabilities It enables the company to fulfill the primary objective of Starlink's cellular system, delivering data to standard customers on Earth, standard smartphones on Earth. This will be achieved using T-Mobile's spectrum over specific radio bands. SpaceX plans to use 840 satellites functioning as orbiting cell towers to provide connectivity to approximately 2,000 test devices. The company has initially proposed testing in 13 locations, but expanded this to include 12 additional radio astronomy sites. Key test sites include Mountain View, California, Kansas City, Kansas, Redmond, Washington, and Dallas, Texas. So this is good. So now they'll be able to test it, tune it, and deal with any complaints that are coming up, and then we'll be able to have our emergency cell service they talked about when they sold it to us. See, I told you it wasn't all bad. Ford brings the shade. So I talked about Ford, and apparently I did bring it into the article. So let's see exactly what Ford said about GM. GM walked into this one. Jim Farley says, we're committed to keeping Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Ford customers love the features because they can keep their eyes on the road and hands on the wheel. We work closely with Apple and Google to create a very high quality experience for our customers. And I think we have the best experience out there with Sync 4A. And then there's somebody using their Apple on their Ford Sync. Maki Vlog says, can you work with Google Maps to get EV route planning integrated like it is with Apple Maps on the Ford Mach-E and Lightning? That's a reasonable request. And Jim Farley says, absolutely. So if you liked being able to interact with Musk on Twitter, you can interact with Farley on Twitter as well. Sergio, our friend, says, I really do. I use it all the time. It's great. All right. I think that's all there was to that. Yep. All right, we've got another Tesla and Uber story. This one is a little different than the last one. It's not about how Uber can read your state of charge and try to match your routes up, which apparently didn't work. This is new and does work. And again, we got the end of the year coming up, so if you're Uber business, you might want to get all your tax purchases in time. Breaking. Tesla has partnered with Uber to make their new inventory vehicles available for oh yeah, so the new inventory is another reason to do it by the end of the year. I was thinking used for some reason. By the end of the year, because that tax credit is going to change. Like we just talked about. Available purchase on the Uber vehicle marketplace. Uber's offering $3,000 additional to people who take delivery by December 31st. And then he had a link to it. And we wait for it to load up. I'll find the next article while that happens. Uber wants to know your location. They don't need to know that. All right, so bonjour, Uber, Tesla. Get up to $3,000 when you buy a new Tesla. Sign in to book. Fuel electric, transmission automatic. Purchase from the partner. Get up to $3,000 after completing 100 rides in a new Tesla vehicle, and up to $7,500 in federal tax credits, plus the other stuff that Tesla's going to offer you if you say use my referral code. Blue and gold drivers will receive $1,000 when you purchase an eligible vehicle and complete 100 trips on the platform. To qualify, you must have your Tesla vehicle delivered during December 2023 and complete 100 trips before February of 2024. Well, that's straight up easy, unless you're like in the sticks. While supplies last. Platinum drivers receive $2,000 for the same. Diamond drivers receive $3,000 for the same. And then they've got the legalese here. Terms and conditions apply. Driving EV pays. Quality for Uber comfort. Learn about federal taxes. Stop paying for gas. Lower maintenance costs. So let's paste and go here. And then for those of you that are Uber drivers, I'm going to include a link to the thing in the YouTube chat. There you go. PG&E just told me they could give me $4,000 to buy a used electric car. That might cover 25% of the cost. I don't know. I don't have 10,000 sitting around. On the other hand, 4,000 would buy me a brand new e-bike or two, or maybe three. Priorities. Ours are completely broken. You see these e-bike people always fighting with the cars. You can get an e-bike and a car. America is not set up to be walked and biked 100%. There are places where you can walk and bike, and you probably should if you have the means. This is not a bikes versus cars situation. And I would certainly like a $4,000 off if I was buying a used car and qualified versus not having $4,000 if I needed a car. But, like I said, if an e-bike would work for you, that's not a bad choice, and they cost less. Uh, oh, I get it. I'm expected to borrow the $10,000 from the dealership. No, you'd borrow it from the bank at 9%. So if you have 9%, then your credit's pretty bad. Or I'm just not kept up on the rates, one or the other. So now instead of owning an e-bike free and clear, I'm on the hook for owning an extra $250 a month for 5 years plus parking tickets. If you mean parking fees, like where to park the car, I get that because that sounds like you're an urban person. But parking tickets suggest that you're not reading the signs before you get out of your car and leave. That's a personal problem. Car culture. It already ate your lunch. Yes, it did. And there's no way around it. Right now, that's how the country is set up. We suck like that. Sorry. Did you ask him about the e-bike? You definitely should offer them alternatives so they hear them. But of course, it's probably based on some federal tax incentive. Yep. He thinks it's a California thing. It's not a California thing. That's part of the same $7,500 tax credit offers a used car tax credit, unless he's talking about an additional $4,000 on top of that from the power company. And your e-bike isn't going to burn as much power, and they're in the business of selling you power, so they want you in an EV, like a full-on car or truck. I've had 6 bikes stolen in the past 2 years. I'd like to see a national effort to fix this. Yes. I'd like to see cops care if you have an Apple tag on it. There are court reasons why they don't. I believe theft, not access, is the number one reason less people bike. That is one reason, but a lot of the communities are not set up to be safe to bike in. That's where our biggest problem starts. Your e-bike is going to get immediately stolen in the Bay. I know this because criminals stole my e-scooter and its replacement. Criminals cause so much climate change. I was just fuming about this. My utility has rebates for EVs and chargers, but none for e-bikes. Also trying to reduce vehicle miles traveled to meet state requirements. It'd be nice, but they won't undermine that. If they're going to subsidize EVs or e-bikes and the goal is energy savings on or less automobile miles driven, I want $10,000 each year for riding my bike everywhere, my push bike. You have to draw the line somewhere. There's also a federal tax credit on used EVs. I bought it from a dealer for under $25K. They'll cover 30% of the cost to maximum $4K. So your hypothetical $14,000 EV now costs you $6,000. Yeah, I mean, you don't just go out and buy a car willy-nilly. You have to need it. That's what that's about. Okay, so that's the same one we just read. We talked about the federal tax credit for Tesla Model 3. On top of that, with the Model 3, Tesla's doing something further. And Anders says, "Good evening. Good to see you, Anders. Sorry for starting late. I had some technical difficulties and a bouncing baby. They did not go together with starting on directly on time. Save up to $3,000 on Model 3 or Model Y from pre-existing inventory and take delivery by December 31st to get the $7,500 tax credit. You get 6 months of free supercharging and 3 months of FSD with a Tesla referral. Nice. So you get extras. You know what? Let me just put my referral in the chat. There you go. So if you want to buy a Tesla, please consider using my code. It works worldwide, but the rewards change based on your location. Cybertruck parts catalog is now available. So that's why I was talking about with the guy I was talking about the window, and I didn't have the parts number for the window. Now I do. Parts catalog teases component costs, key features, and Easter eggs. So you can get your body panels, you can get your windows, glass, your steering rack. Got little Tesla truck logos hidden in there, like the Jeeps. And then we found the air line for the battery in there, so we know that it's pressurized with air from the suspension system. Then we've got something that we knew about, but now we've got a first customer listed for this program. The Rivian electric delivery van now has its first public customer. It's AT&T. They're going to buy the first customer outside of Amazon. They're going to buy AT&T vans. We don't know much about this, so there we go. I've got it in there exactly twice. I don't know why. So talking about companies saving their way into not dying, but still making it worse because they're not doing the right investments. GM has delayed the Toledo EV plant, EV drive unit production plant until Q4 of 2024. That's 9 months later than originally planned. And I don't really care to hear their excuses, so we're going to move on. GM's Cruise is not doing well. So after they after they ran over and dragged a pedestrian that was hit by another car, they basically shut down everything. They had a executive shakeup last week, and after that executive shakeup, they're now laying off 900 employees, or over 24% of their workforce. Read the memo here. The layoffs hit mostly the commercial operations and relate to corporate functions. Comes one day after the robotaxi subsidiary dismissed 9 key leaders. The moves are fallout from the company's response to the October 2nd incident in which a pedestrian was dragged 20 feet by a Cruise self-driving car after being hit by another vehicle. Since the let me make this bigger. I can't. Ooh, I tried to look where I was supposed to. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. Da, da, da. Since the incident, the company suspended all trips on all public roads and has halted the production of new robotaxi, among other moves. I think that new robotaxi they're talking about is the bread box that they're working on with another company. That's not the memo. A Cruise representative told CNBC the company's goal is now to work on a fully driverless Level 4 service, as well as relaunching ride-hailing in the city to start. I don't see what's different there. Here's the memo. Cruisers, we knew this day was coming, but it does not make it any less difficult, especially for those whose jobs are affected. Today, we are making staff reductions that will affect 24% full-time cruisers. Although through no fault of their own, we are simplifying and focusing our efforts to return with an exceptional service in one city to start, and focusing on the Bolt platform for this trip before we scale. As a result, we are reducing our employee counts in operations and other areas. These impacts are largely outside of the engineering, and some tech positions are impacted also. As you might have learned yesterday, we took the action to part ways with several SLT members, senior leadership team members. Craig and I believe this is a necessary step, and our leadership team and the board are fully aligned with how our go forward U.S. staffing needs will map to the priorities ahead of us and set up Cruise for the long term. We have also ended additional assignments of contingent workers who support our driverless operations. That makes sense. If you're not driving, you need people to service the cars. As we refined our go-forward plans, in a few moments, you will receive an email letting you know whether or not you are affected by this staffing reduction. Oops, my email's broke. That's how I know. If you are impacted, you will get details about what happens in a subsequent email. Well, I guess it's a layoff. They'd have to phase it out and give you a plan, an end date, and a severance package. Please know that our first priority is to treating departing cruisers with fairness, and I will describe more about how we are going to do that below. I also want to explain why we're making these reductions and what this means for Cruise going forward. And it keeps going on for a while. The important stuff about perks, wallet bonuses, 401k, and vesting. Yes. All right, I'm not going to read all that, but you get the gist of it. We got another Cadillac Q coming up. What does that mean? It's a Cadillac electric of some sort, like the Celestiq, the Lyric. This one is the Vistic. 2026 Cadillac Vistic photos have revealed an electric 3-row SUV with specs to come later. There it is. That's all we're going to say about it because You know how I feel about these automakers that show stuff and don't always make it happen. We'll talk about it when it's real. Like if I showed you every Toyota EV, there'd be a lot of them missing. Gerard Malone says non to receiving a government subsidy. So no, in French. No, no. To receiving government subsidy, they can still be sold at full price. This is perfectly understandable that France wants to promote French and European made EVs that are struggling to sell and make profits in the first place. So, what this is regarding is um, the French subsidies are not going to apply to some Chinese cars anymore. And apparently, that also includes Teslas. So, if it comes from China, you don't get the tax credit. And I can't even say anything because ours is the exact same way. If it's a Chinese battery, you don't get credit. And not just a Chinese battery, sometimes a Chinese company. All right, so this one is in the wrong section, but there it is. Tesla is seeking to hire a government affairs specialist in Sweden and amid a union protest. So basically, what this is Tesla wants an experienced lobbyist who has results that they can prove. So they would like to come at this from another angle instead of just taking all the punches and reacting to what metal is doing to them. This one, I think. No, this one's not the one from Patrick. This is from somebody else. Tesla Powerwall dominates U.S. consumer battery storage market. They got the ease of use, they got the brand name, they got the first mover advantage. So Tesla's gaining market share among the U.S. consumer storage market, according to data from Wood Mackenzie. Tesla's Powerwall is silently taking over the sector. Wood Mackenzie estimates that 11 out of 100 homes installing solar panels in the U.S. added a battery storage system. I did, but it wasn't my Powerwall. I do have a Powerwall. It's on my dad's house, also solar. The company's data shows that nearly half of combined solar and battery installations for residential customers use Tesla's Powerwall. The Tesla solar battery market comes up to about 50%, even though Wood Mackenzie's data puts the company's shares total sales at 30.2%. This is because Sunrun in second place with 20.5% and SunPower in third place install Tesla's Powerwall for their clients. It's kind of cool. Continuing on about the Powerwall, Tesla released this info page that Patrick found on their website. And I still think that it should have included comparisons with non-Tesla batteries and with um, solar generator off-grid batteries. Let's see what we got here. So this is a little Tesla article write-up about Powerwall versus a backup generator. Be prepared when the next storm power outage with seamless backup protection from the Powerwall, while also reducing your electricity bills and earning money by participating in grid services. Explore the following to help you understand the grid and decide on a backup solution for your home. What is Powerwall? What is a backup generator? Cost savings for Powerwall versus backup. The differences between Powerwall and backup generator, and the next steps, as well as schedule a consultation or order one. They tell you what it is, tell you about backup. They give you some differences between the two, such as operating costs, 10 kilowatt generator loan payment, estimated monthly electric bill, because you'll still have electric bill. You will with Tesla's example as well, but it's much smaller. And then you've got your solar and storage loan payment, which is all of that, and $20 of savings instead of an additional $25 of operating cost. Lower 10-year cost of ownership, and this is the table I was talking about. An automatic less than 1 second less than 1 second transition to battery backup without interruption versus 15 to 30 second delay before automatic or manual backup and synchronization. Stored electricity from solar panels or the grid, or natural gas or liquid propane and diesel for the generator. Because I still think that if they'd done the other two types of batteries, they still would have come out ahead, but they would have pushed more people to cleaner and greener technologies than because not everybody can afford a Powerwall. The Powerwall is quieter versus the generator. You can use the Powerwall indoors, just not on a room that people sleep in. Generator should be used outside, generally on a concrete pad, due to the odor and the exhaust. There's almost no maintenance on your Powerwall. It reduces your electric bill by storing energy from the grid when prices are low. And the generator can't do that because you only use it when there's no power. Grid services earn money by participating in virtual power plants and energy retail plans like Tesla Electric. You get a 10-year warranty instead of 5. It's powered by the sun versus old fossil sources of carbon. Next, we've got Tesla China has rolled out a really cool looking feature. His description is not quite accurate because he called it live, and if you look deeply into the photo, you can see that it's nighttime and the photo is during the daytime. See, it's nighttime, and this is in the daytime. But that's pretty cool. It shows you exactly how you need to make your maneuver. I like that. Who knows when we'll see that? Drive Tesla asks, did you mean live or just an image of the intersection? They also like the improved weather icon. They get the air quality index as 13. And that was that. If you're interested in buying an original Tesla Roadster, but you want one with low miles, they have such a thing. This one's got 38 miles. It's on auction by Gruber Motors. The Drive is reporting this. But technically, the 2010 Roadster hasn't even gone through a full battery charge. That's a, I don't know that that's an accurate statement. It hasn't driven through a full battery charge. That is accurate. So this Roadster has got 38 miles on it. It's a 2010 Roadster, so it's the latest and greatest that they had on offer. 38 miles. It's been a long time since most of us even thought about the OG Roadster. Let's forget about how cool time. Get some pictures from Gruber. Being a 2010 model, this specific Roadster has a few updates over the original 08 car, such as push-button gear selection, additional sound deadening, and manually adjustable coilovers. Its 53 kilowatt-hour battery pack gave it 244 miles of range and 288 horsepower. Could get it from 0 to 60 in just 3.9 seconds. Not bad. This is from Sawyer. Spinning. New U.S. rules could force an early production halt to some gas vehicles. A group representing major automakers has urged the Biden administration to make significant changes to proposed vehicle rules, warning that they could force car companies to hastily stop building some gas-powered vehicles. He's got a link to the Reuters article. That part doesn't really matter because it's the same song and dance they always give us. Funny things happen. Said that it's not like they woke up yesterday and that was the new target. They've known for years. And then I jumped in 100%. They even had input on this before it was set. If they're surprised by this, they're lying, and that's their own fault. So that'll be fun. Having less fossils. What's bad on their part is they have a bad investment on it because now they got to stop early. But it's going to happen even earlier than all of this because once they hit the tipping point, nobody will want to be caught holding the bag on a fossil car. Over 50 Cybertrucks. Joe Tegmeyer has given us this little clip here. You want to see over 50 Cybertrucks today at Giga Texas? Watch this short video clip from my drone flight. Getting excited to see so many in one place. At Gregor Truck at SER Robinson. We don't know why this one is being forklifted. There's another one. It might be this one with no wheels, forklifted through the windows, put on that tow truck there. I considered a super cheap hydrogen Mirai. Here's why I said no inside EVs. Secondhand Toyota Mirai might be the best used car deal around, but with hydrogen costs and shaky infrastructure, it made me steer clear. So Tim Levin says that when I told Mike, I told him a ride driver I bumped into at a hydrogen fuel pump in Oakland that I was considering buying an offbeat zero emission car like his. The first 3 words out of his mouth told me everything I needed to know. He said, "Do not do it. Don't do it." It was deflating. For a second there, I thought I'd stumbled upon the deal of a century. Used hydrogen fuel cell cars are wildly cheap, and in ways that more conventional, or so, in some ways more convenient than battery-powered EVs. Some ways they're talking about the short fill time, but as I've said many times here, the short fill time doesn't really matter unless you're doing exclusively long road trips, and or if you don't have home charging. Uh, the short road trips don't really matter, or the short times on long road trips don't matter because unless you're traveling up the California coast, you're not going anywhere. Or those few places in Canada that still have their stations. I was eager to embrace a strange new technology and gloat over how clever I was to anyone who'd listen. It's the California way, after all. Uh, After chatting with Mike and doing some digging on my own, I'm pretty sure a Mirai isn't for me. It sucks because I found some amazing overlooked benefits to owning one. For example, Toyota offers $15,000 of free fuel to new owners. I think it says something when even that isn't quite enough to convince me. Use Mirais. How much do they go for? The fueling stations are $1.5 to $2 million generally. Set out to determine whether Mariah could fit into my life while everyone was sleeping on this deal, or was I missing something? A little bit of both. $7,500 for a car that originally sold for like $64,000. Mm-hmm. No. 64 would have been the subsidized price. It would have been like $84,000. Expensive fuel, shaky infrastructure. He's basically telling us stuff that all those of us that said don't do hydrogen already knew. When he tried to trade it in, the dealership offered him $1,000. Wow. Yeah, we'll take that piece of trash off your hands just to make sure you buy something new from us. Go from $84,000 down to $1,000 in 6 years. Ouch. Let's look at these comments real quick. I'm curious. A beautiful Mirai arrived at my favorite no-haggle used dealership. When I inquired about the nearest fueling station, all 3 locations were shuttered in 2021. I bought a used Leaf. I can refuel in my garage. Hydrogen fuel cells never answer a question no one ever asked. The author might have failed to realize that for every kilowatt of mechanical energy he got from hydrogen, more than 3 kilowatts of electrical and mechanical energy had been used in conversion, compression, transportation. That's certainly being reflected in the price that consumers are paying. Yeah, hydrogen's like, oof. I get a used electric car, killing 122 fuel stations, projected to open in California by 2026, could potentially save $200 million that could be spent on EVs. Hydrogen is expensive because it has to be manufactured in one way or another. Yeah. I'm doing a search now for the word kilogram. I'm trying to, but I'm not having any luck getting the thing to respond to me. Let's try again. Refresh, inspect, sidebar. I just want find, Control F, Command F. Because my window's too small? It might be. Find on page. Yep, either it didn't like my keyboard or something. So we're gonna search for $sign. I'm looking for price per kilogram that he got. That one was 64 new. The station closest to my apartment now costs $36 a kilogram when I drove over to check. This means nothing to you, obviously, so let me explain. Mirai takes a total of 5 kilograms of hydrogen, so a fuel tank would cost around $180 and return 312 miles at EPA estimated range. Let's take a 2018 miles example. That works out to 58 cents per mile, which is abysmal. Taking the average price of gas in California at $464 a gallon, and a hypothetical car with a decent fuel economy, let's say 25 miles per gallon, you end up with just 18 cents per mile. So, what do you say, 58 cents versus 18? You can get that makes the aforementioned 15,000 of fuel more of a necessity than a nice benefit. You can get that if you buy a new or certified pre-owned, which costs a bit more than the regular old used. I found certified Mirais in my area going for as little as $11,000, not factoring in the used EV tax credit that lopped off 30% of the purchase price up to $4,000. I didn't realize they qualified. So you can get your tax credit if you can find a place to get fuel. So yeah, we already knew most of this. Copy link, paste and go. All right, we're coming up on the last articles now. 2024 Hummer EV pickup and SUV EPA range and pricing overview. So they're getting ready to roll over the next model year of the Hummer EV, and here's what we're looking at. They're going to have new trim levels. They finally have. They're done with the first launch edition 1 trims. You can look at the EV3X, which is the launch edition with less included by default, and then the EV2X, which is a dual motor version. And eventually they're going to have just a rear motor one, and we're not talking about that one just yet. The pricing, the 3X starts at 104,000 plus a 2295 destination charge, and the bigger battery option with 24 modules using the Edition 1, 18-inch wheels, 35-inch mud tires, cost $995 each. Shipment has arrived. Selecting both brings MSRP to $124,640. The EV2X model is available only with a 20 module battery and starts at $96,550. So that's $8,100 less. But you still don't qualify for the tax credit because it costs more than $80,000 base. So here's the table. We go from the cheapest one I see is $96,550. Wow. There's no tax credit, so the effective price just adds the destination charge to it. Nice. But if you want to, just have a Hummer EV to just kind of show off, I guess, or if you like crab walk or whatever, it's become a little more reachable now. Check on this multi-stream thing. So far, so good. All right, well, let me push the button now. No, it won't let me push the button now because it has to be 5 before I can push it. All right, so this one, I've got a trigger warning for you. The trigger warning I wrote, mangled car from crash, 100% survival. This was a Tesla Model Y. Drive Tesla says, unbelievable that the Tesla driver survived this collision. Yet another example that Teslas are engineered to be the safest cars on the road. The Cybertruck will be no exception. P.S. Do not drink and drive. At Elon Musk, at Lars Moravi. This was a Tesla Model Y, and I'll tell you a bit of the backstory in just a moment. Soak that in for a minute. All right, so the OPP, Highway Safety Division, says a driver of car in hospital arrested for impaired driving. Northbound Highway 400, Bass Pro Mills, closed for investigation. The car involved a single vehicle collision with concrete wall prior to stopping in a live lane and being struck by a transport truck just after 5 a.m. And then the person who actually wrote the post put their initials. So this is what was left after striking a concrete barrier and getting hit by a truck. That's what's left of the truck after not being able to avoid this wrong way car facing it stopped in the lane. And there's another angle of the Model Y. It is done. It's totaled. But everybody survived, and that's what was important with all this. And then we've got a little bit about gigapresses. So we talked about how some other company did a 10,000 ton gigapress to beat Tesla's 8,000 ton gigapress. What, 9,000 ton gigapress? No, that doesn't feel right. There was another gigapress that was smaller than this one, but bigger than what Tesla uses. And we're spinning. Bug not found exception points out that LK is the parent company of IDRA. LK Technologies has partnered with Neza Motors in China to introduce the world's first 20,000 ton gigapress. The unit will have the highest clamping force in the world and the potential to cast the entire car body chassis of B class vehicles and larger. Then we go over to Yahoo Finance. And so Hong Kong, OK Holdings, who owns IDRA, 20,000 tons of clamping force. So cool things. We're gonna see more giga castings. Gotta love it. And so we'll come over here and go back to do this. Yes. So I want to thank all of you guys for bearing with us during one of today's larger sized episodes. I want to thank our channel members for participating and helping make sure that this thing is funded, helped out with these technologies for streaming and such. And I want to point out that whenever we next have 5 people live on YouTube at a time, YouTube allows me to do giveaways of memberships. So if you're already a member and you're in there, or if you're not a member, and if we have 5 or more, they'll randomly distribute a membership, a 1-month membership. So if you are a member, they'll carry you for a month. And if you are not a member, they'll give you a membership for a month. And like I said, all of that does help support the channel with paying for hosting fees and things like that. So I want to thank all of you for your time watching us today. And I want to thank you guys for your monetary contributions as well. And, well, have a wonderful evening. Catch you on the flip side.